This week on the PRESSURECAST, a PlayStation Neo reveal may come next month, Xbox One sales see a significant increase, and Ubisoft wants to fart in your face. It's Monday, August 15th, 2016. Everything happening in the world of video games is here, now, on the PRESSURECAST. Hey, Pressure Pals. Welcome to the 143rd episode of the PRESSURECAST, VideoGamesAreDumb.com's weekly news panic that posts every single Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, and America's longest-running independent newspaper at ShepherdExpress.com. My name is Colin Tanner, and I am caffeinated and ready to ramble to you about some gosh darn video games. And across from me, Steve Cuff.
Hey, what's up?
No, you know. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing fabulous.
Oh, I love hearing that. In case you've never listened to the PRESSURECAST before, each week the PRESSURECAST slices up the latest video game news, past, present, and future, and delivers it right into your ears in 2 hours or less through several sensational segments. Remember, if you want the PRESSURECAST to grow, and I know you do, please go to iTunes and give it 5 stars and a written review, or just share the PRESSURECAST on your social media avenue of choice. Come on, I want more listeners. Also, if you want to contact the show, if you want to talk back to us, you can email pressurecast@gmail.com. You can call 954-947-7377. Or you can even, tweet at PRESSURECASTPod. Speaking of which, normally we like to wait to have any sort of voicemail or anything towards the end of the show, but we just got a voicemail from Keon this week that pertains to our first story, so I think, you know what? Let's have Keon take it away.
Hey, what's going on, PRESSURECAST crew? How are you guys feeling today? This is Keon calling from Baltimore. Question to you guys is, I just read something about the Neo, about PlayStation, or Sony that is, having a, I don't know if it's a presser or some kind of event in New York, on September 7th, possibly talking about the Neo. So my question to you guys, Colin, is this. Do you think that the Neo is still going to come out this year? Because I know some people were saying, or at least speculating, that they were going to hold off on it to try to make it more competitive with the Scorpio. So do you think that this event will truly unveil the pricing and the Neo is being a real thing and making it official? Just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that. Once again, thanks again for all of the hard work, and you guys take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Keon, thank you for the voicemail. We have more voicemails later on in the third part of the show, so stay tuned for that. Keon wants to know about the PlayStation Neo, so we better get on the train. Chug, 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 chug. Here comes the train.
Here comes the train.
Choo, choo, choo. Boop, boop. That's right. It's time for the hype train. Feel the PR vibrations as we barrel towards video game satisfaction station on the hype train. This is the part of the show we talk about all those upcoming video games to get you hyped up to spend all your money and become a video game guru. Keon wants to know, and we should not deny him, PlayStation Neo. Reportedly, the reveal for the PlayStation Neo is going to take place on September 7th. Many people were speculating, well, why is that date? Why did anyone pick that? What is this about? Well, it's going to take place in New York as well, in the PlayStation Theater. People laughed this off. These are just rumors. What are you talking about? And now the media have officially received invitations to a PlayStation event on September 7th at the PlayStation Theater in New York. Basically fitting exactly what people predicted so far. And that's basically almost the entire news. In case you don't know, the PlayStation Neo is the confirmed upgrade version of PlayStation 4 that will have a better CPU. And that's really about it. It will be able to upscale possibly to 4K, much like the Xbox One S does. Andrew House basically said it was going to sit alongside that console. And touching on Keon's point, Andrew House did say they want an Apple-like reveal, announce the console, and release it in quick succession. So, Steve, I ask you, September 7th, they're going to announce the PlayStation Neo. That's 3 months away before the end of the year, give or take, like 3.5. Will we see the PlayStation Neo on store shelves before the end of 2016?
Absolutely, for two reasons. One, they need to beef up their fourth quarter. Two, you have PlayStation VR coming out, so you want those two things to be available at the same time. So I would not be surprised if the Neo came out either right before or right after PlayStation VR.
So that'll be in October. So basically give them a month ahead of time.
Yep.
Now, Apple usually does it about a week, right? Or just a few days.
I would not be surprised if they launch before the end of September. In fact, if I were a betting man and I had to put it on a date, I would say 2 weeks from the show. So the 21st of September.
That's very interesting. Yes.
That's my release date prediction.
Now, here's the other interesting tidbit. Just when everyone was like, come on, calm down, guys. They announced they're going to be live streaming the event. Sony's live streaming an event that has no named purpose. What do you think? They're just gonna go on stage? You know what this reminds me of? This is like when it's that time of year. Your birthday's a few days away, and then one of your friends is like, "Hey, buddy, why don't you come over to my place?" You're like, "What? Why don't we just go to the bar?" "No, come over to my place. Let's just come over here." Like, okay, here we go. And then surprise, happy birthday. This is what this is right now.
I don't know. It's going to be a big swerve, and instead they're going to announce Crash Team Racing 2 and PlayStation All-Stars 2.
And Vita 2. That would be... I saw some rumors online. They go, are they also going to reveal a second Vita? And just
no more Vitas.
Well, you know, they did say that they wanted to reach a certain amount of PlayStation 4s sold by the end of the year. I think they're about 9 million away from that number. I can't remember what the exact number was, but I do think PlayStation Neo would definitely take them to that promising fourth quarter of the year, not necessarily of the financial year. You know, there's some rumors going around that they might have gone back to the drawing board after learning more about the Xbox Scorpio, which that's a real significant increase. That almost feels like a generational jump in some ways. Not, of course, you know, not like a PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, but a midway point, certainly.
Sure.
If they are going to be going back to the drawing board, I can't see how they could just say, oh, just add more of this. You know, that's how you get something like the Sega Saturn. You know, where you just, at the last second, shove in more components and don't give developers enough time. There's also rumors that they're not going to send out development kits until after this reveal, or final development kits, I should say. That doesn't really give a lot of people enough time to prep for the PlayStation Neo if it is going to be coming out this year. I assume there's plenty of developers, like the big ones, that already have these development kits. I have to assume, like an Ubisoft or an EA or an Activision. They've already got that in the bag. I don't know. Would you be buying one?
No, I'm not going to buy one.
What would get you to buy one? That's a more interesting question.
Oh.
Because we have these leaked specs right here. Either the specs are wrong, they're right, and Sony will try and release an even more upgraded PlayStation 4 to go up against Scorpio, or they just don't care. They're like, we have the momentum.
Yeah, I don't see them scrapping their plans, because you have to remember, these things go into production months ahead of time. It's not like you can't just at the last minute go, oh, by the way, change this, this, and this. No, it doesn't work that way. These things are already sitting somewhere in a warehouse in Japan waiting to be, you know, put on a boat and shipped over here. The thing that could get me to buy a Neo, I guess, if I bought a 4K television and my current PlayStation 4 bricked. That's the only thing I could think of. Yeah,
well, I mean, what if you were to get better frame rates with, I don't know, PlayStation VR?
I'm not buying that either, so...
Lame.
Yeah, I know. I'm no fun. I think you would really, really need to sell me hard on a necessary upgrade here. What they're trying to do, and Xbox is doing the same thing, is they're turning the game console into the cell phone, where every couple of years it's the same thing, just slightly better. So, you know, kind of like the iPhone from a 5 to a 6. There are people out there who need to have the latest and the greatest, and when the iPhone 6 comes out, they rush out, they stand in line, they replace their iPhone 5 with an iPhone 6. I'm not that person. I'm the guy who holds onto his cell phone until it literally doesn't function. So this is not for me. I'm interested to see how they utilize the technology, both Xbox and PlayStation, but I don't see a reason to buy it. Like, what's the hook? Unless you're a guy who has to have the new shiny thing, which there's plenty of people like that. Why do I need it right now?
And that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter. People will still buy it. I'm kind of disturbed at how fast it turned from, this is stupid, please don't do this, to, when is it coming out? When is the reveal? I'm ready to buy it right now. People did a 180 on that, and they really now want this device. And I see some people out there that are talking about the Xbox One Scorpio and being like, why would anybody buy that? It doesn't have any exclusives people want. What are you talking about? The PlayStation 4 didn't really have any exclusives either for the first 2 years.
Hey, Bloodborne, man.
2 years. Okay. I'm not saying they didn't have that big exclusive. If you ask people what are the big exclusives you have to play on this console that is the reason you need a Neo, I don't think people have the answer for it. Like, what is it? Like, there's no exclusives. There can't be even, because according to the leaked mandate that they have to play on both systems, just like what they're doing over at Xbox. It has to play on both systems, which sounds like a complete nightmare for developers. In fact, let's just move over to this next story. Toot toot. Sean Murray from Hello Games. He was the director of No Man's Sky. And he had this to say about the PlayStation Neo and the possibilities of the technology when dealing with pre-released games. If you play another game, and if they do a remaster of that game, what they will do is up-res the textures and things like that. That's because the base geometry, the base shape of the world, the way of playing it is totally like Lost. He said like, I can't help it. Hundreds of people have worked on it, thousands of hours to create what you see. For our game, it's procedurally generated. So more powerful hardware doesn't just mean upgrade textures or higher frame rate, it means we can fundamentally change the experience. With more powerful hardware, we can have more trees, more leaves on those trees, the density of immersion of worlds, of new types of worlds could exist. So, I think this is kind of interesting because, of course, No Man's Sky is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It could come to Xbox at some point in the future.
Sure.
But for the time being, it is a PlayStation 4 and PC exclusive. And he's talking about the way that this can enhance the game. And I don't know about you, but for a long time I've been thinking, oh, it's a better resolution, or maybe it's better frame rates. But now you start to think about, like, well, wait a minute. What if this can create a better draw distance? You know, very small things. What if we get an FOV slider all of a sudden in some of these games? Yeah. I don't know. Is there any sort of changes you'd like to see to a game, or do you just simply like the idea of a better frame rate is good enough if you have to have something?
I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't see this, like, the way he positions it. He says, okay, well, now we can make the games shinier and prettier, and therefore they're better. And I don't think, like, that's not a path that I want to walk down, because I don't believe in that at all. And if you look at No Man's Sky, it's an amazing technical achievement. But at the same time, the idea of gigantic worlds and games that you can get lost in, that's something that's been going on for a long time. Go back and play the Elder Scrolls Arena. Good fucking lord, that game is huge. Daggerfall, huge.
Those are still the biggest worlds ever in a Bethesda game.
Yeah, they're just gigantic games. So I don't buy into this whole, well, if we could only have a few more leaves on the trees, the games would be better. No, that stuff doesn't matter. Look at what makes No Man's Sky great. It's not the number of polygons on each individual creature. It's the overall experience. It's the music. It's the color palette. That's what matters. It's the aesthetic. It's not how many bells and whistles. So yeah, with the PlayStation 4, I think a lot of people are comparing it to having like a really high-end PC card. So when I play Tomb Raider on my PC, the fundamental difference between that and playing it on, I don't know, Xbox or whatever, is like, oh, look, more hair tessellation or something, which doesn't make my experience better. It's pretty, it's fine, but I don't need it. Or, maybe it's like the RAM pack in the Nintendo 64, where some games look better, some games have improved frame rates. Other times the games look better and it tanks the frame rate, so who knows?
Do I play Vigilante 8 Second Offense in 480p? Because that's going to take that frame rate. Yeah. You know what? I have always been on the idea, or I always believe that it's more about art style rather than graphics, rather than realism. Although I do appreciate realistic graphics. When I'm playing a racing game, I go, wow, yeah, I want those graphics to be realistic, unless, of course, they have a unique art style. But one of the concepts I always wanted, at least for this generation, was to basically just do everything they were doing last generation, but bigger. And I know it sounds weird, but I mean, my best example is Samurai Warriors. So I've got, 50 guys surrounding me? Well, I want 200 guys surrounding me. I want more stuff on the screen. And so I kind of am a little excited for Neo if it can somehow promise that. Something like a Dynasty Warriors where I'm slashing away thousands of people at once as opposed to 1,000. I don't know. It's childish, but we touched on it for a bit right here. You've been playing No Man's Sky. I've been playing No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
What do you think of it so far?
It's great because I love the game, but I have this really complex relationship with it. And this is one of the reasons why I love it so much, is because it's so great but so messy and flawed at the same time that, you know, I'm almost of two minds with it. Every time I play it, I find something where I'm like, man, I wish this was like this, or why did they do this, or why is this like this? But at the same time, like last night I sat down, I'm like, oh, I'll play for like 30 minutes. No, 5 hours. Just sucks the time away. And just the sense of discovery and this weird feeling of isolation, it's unlike anything I've ever played before in that sense. So yeah, it's deeply, deeply flawed, but in an incredibly interesting way. And it's one of those games where I can't help but recommend it. And it's also funny too, because I feel like where the game falls short is where it tries too hard to be a video game, which is a strange criticism because of course it's a fucking video game. But, you know, I in a lot of ways it's kind of like a large scale Proteus, or at least that's how I approached it. And the thing is with Proteus is you just walk around, you experience these environments, and you just sort of bask in this pastoral walk around experience. And the part where No Man's Sky falters for me is where it's just like, oh, inventory management, oh, resource management, oh, crafting. It's like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to like fucking get lost in this cave and then run into a giant like dinosaur rat.
That's an interesting. Yeah, no, I can agree with some of that. I really like the game, and I hear a lot of people saying it's flawed. The flaws I see in it are technical. The game crashes. A lot.
I haven't had any problems with that. That's interesting.
Well, I warp all the time. Like, I'm warping here, there, everywhere.
Okay.
And it's during the warp that I actually crash. You know, I'll just land in a universe and be like, nope, don't need it, and warp to the next place. I mean, I can already warp 4 stars ahead or whatever. The thing I really appreciate about this game is that it's very Zen-like. And I think the reason people are having issues with it is because they didn't pay attention to what the marketing was actually saying. They're stupid children that just kind of go, it's got me, take that Xbox. And it's like, no, that's not how it works, kids. It's still a game, and you still have to play it. You don't just put the game in there and it says, not on Xbox. And you go, yay! I think that's how a lot of people were unfortunately looking at it. Some people, not everyone. What I appreciate about this game is how it turns video games on its head, actually. And that it's not quite like Minecraft, because Minecraft obviously has the creepers and you're trying to protect yourself and blah, 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 blah. What's cool about this game is that there is no sense of urgency at all.
Nope.
You can do whatever you want, go wherever you want. It's not pushing you in any direction. You can if you want, but there's no urgency. Take your time to get there. And so that might seem like, well, this is kind of boring, you know? But what it rewards you with, the more time you spend with it, the less time you have to spend with it, which sounds ridiculous. But you learn how to craft better and better things. So instead of searching and collecting all these things to sell something, to get a fusion cell that creates a battery that allows you to go to get that warp drive, you can now just create that fusion cell and create that warp drive in a second. It's like, oh, no, I know how to do this now, because I learned the blueprint, or I learned the language. You spend less time thinking about something, and it's very intentional, because when you go throughout the game, instead of showing you distance, it actually has a countdown clock. And so it keeps saying, like, no, because you're going, the better you get at this, the less time you're going to have to spend, which sounds almost like, it would almost sound like a phone game, you know, where you have to buy stuff. But it's the opposite. The more you learn about the universe, the more that you learn about how to recognize what carbon looks like, the faster the game is, and the more rewarding it is. It's teaching you skills. It's really lovely.
I also feel like it does do a good job, even though I'm not too huge on the resource management aspect, especially because when you start the game, there's like a brief period after your initial like, oh my god moment, and then you have this point where you're not upgraded enough, so you can't carry any shit, and you're like, oh my god, is this going to be like this forever? No, it's not. But it does a good job of never feeling grindy. Like, anytime I need something, I feel like it's right at my fingertips, whether it's, you know, like I've never had to search endlessly for plutonium to fuel my ship, or if I need a rarer element, I always feel like I can go to the Galactic Trade Center and I can probably get it. So that's nice, where I'm not just grinding for resources. But to your point, you can really take your time with this game, and it's beautiful. I've probably put in 15, maybe close to 20 hours. I've only visited like 4 planets.
Wow.
Like, I'm just like pouring over these planets, just exploring all this stuff, and it's amazing because, you know, you can just do some surface level stuff there, but if you really get into exploring, the things that you come across are just amazing.
Dude, what about I don't know about you, but when you find a cave and you're like, awesome, and then 30 minutes later, like, how the fuck do I get out of this cave?
Oh, yeah.
You can get lost in this game, and I it's so weird. I think that this game just, unfortunately, critics were kind of pushed to complete it, you know, like get the review out, which I was going to do one on Friday, and I went, no, I should not be playing this game this way because that's not how most people will play it. And if they do, then, you know, I don't know what scenario you're in where, like, I got to get home and play this game for 2 hours. I don't know what life you're leading. Just go to sleep and just eat something and then wake up and play it some more. But for me, what I really love about this game is how many planets there are, which sounds stupid. But what I love about it is that a lot of the planets are boring and empty. There's not much going on. And which would lead you to believe there's a sense of, like, disposability in there. But there's not. Because just like real life, and I hate to make the comparison, oh, it's like real life, man. But, like, there's so many boring planets that when you happen to land on one that doesn't have harsh conditions, that doesn't have insane sentinels, where the animals are actually friendly, and there's resources everywhere, and it's beautiful, it feels like a moment. You have that moment where, like, I have fought so long and so hard, and here I am, and I never want to leave. But you do have to leave. And there's that second where, like, I could just stay here. And you go. It's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
I really love No Man's Sky. And I see a lot of people out there that are kind of like, you know, this game, I really like it. I just wish it was $30. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That is a horrible criticism of anything.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, it's a reminder, too, for me that video games don't have to be games. Like you said, No Man's Sky is a game with an end condition. But pursuing that end condition of getting to the center of the universe is probably the least fun thing that you can do in the game. And it really taps into that kind of open world freedom that you felt with the early 3D Grand Theft Auto games, where the fun of a Grand Theft Auto game isn't completing missions and doing the story mode. Like, fuck that.
San Andreas especially.
Yeah, it's experiencing this world that you're in and just seeing how you can alter and interact with it. And that's where No Man's Sky shines.
Well, yes, but I know some people going the whole idea of going to the center of the universe kind of misses the point, and people say don't do that. I say go for it, because what it does is it creates a road trip. You know what I mean? It's like there's a destination. It's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And whereas you could go anywhere, and I think that's cool. I do like the idea that I'm progressing towards something that probably won't be very meaningful to me. The ending of this game doesn't matter, but I'm excited to kind of have the opportunity to play it again and just find different planets this time. And have you been naming your planets or anything?
I named a couple at first, but I'm actually kind of okay with the randomly generated, like, weird Latin names that everything comes up with.
That's basically the thing I picked up. I was like, this is just fucking Latin. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine. And yeah, there are a few little things that I'm hoping they can fix with patches. Like you mentioned with the crashes, that sucks. I haven't experienced that, but again, I'm not warping as much as you, obviously.
I actually booted the game up and it crashed yesterday. It literally, I pressed start, it went to the splash screen and it just crashed. I'm like, all right.
I know. I don't know how much the online component plays into this game, but the one thing I notice is oftentimes, like, the server goes down, and I get that thing at the bottom. It's like, you're not connected to the
really
games
not
on
at all
server.
for me.
Yeah, so
there's some issues with this game if we are both having big issues and neither of us are having the same issues.
Yeah, well, and then I heard of a third issue, and this is something that I didn't experience either, where people are picking up blueprints, but the blueprints aren't showing up in their inventory.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, so that's a problem. There's little things like that, and also, Hello Games, if you're listening, I'm sure you are. Hello. When you're patching this game to fix these bigger performance issues, if you could go ahead and just add an option to automatically upload all my discoveries from a planet, that'd be great, so I don't have to go through and click one each individually.
You know, I will say, watching, because you actually have to scan a lot of creatures in this game, scan objects, and then you can get a lot of money if you scan all the objects or all the creatures on a planet, and also discover all the bases, which, by the way, this is a really awesome puzzle game. I love going into these different areas of the universe and having to deal with these riddles because you don't have all the language. Like, an alien is talking to you, and you can see the word friend and, like, plasma or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy wants to cut my hand open. Should I let him do this? And I'm like, why not? And then he cuts my hand, he spits in it, and then he gives me a high five, and then he gave me some money. It's like, yeah, of course he did. Because this is the warlike creatures. Here's the scientific creatures. Like, they'll have their own different personalities, which I guess in the long run is just stereotyping because they're all the same in a way. But I think No Man's Sky is great. And I will, to one point you said about, like, you'll always have those resources within reach. You never have to, like, go and search for them. Bullshit. Because in the first, like, 3 hours of this game, I did not know where to find that one blue one that charges up your
Oh,
ship.
yeah, that's the only time I've really had to grind for resources.
But it was so great because I'm just wandering around this planet being like, oh my god, my hazard suit is falling apart. I need to get more plutonium. Where the fuck is this? Oh, there it is. All right, now where's my ship? 30 minutes away. Like, it was so good.
Well, and I think that's the difference too. Like, the most difficult adjustment period for this game is.
But that was worth it. I liked the relief of discovering it.
The first planet that you're stranded on is like the most difficult scenario that you'll be in the game because you have no idea just how the systems and mechanics work. And I think I actually benefited from watching a few like gameplay videos beforehand, so I had kind of a grasp on what you're supposed to do. But once you get into the game's just kind of like general loop and you start to understand the systems that are at work, I never have had to grind for resources since starting. Like, I always know, okay, there's going to be plutonium around, obviously carbon's everywhere, and other resources, I can either find them or I know that I can trade for them.
Well, when you get the blueprints, you start to actually be like, oh, I don't actually have that stuff. So now I got to kind of hunt for it a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's where it gets into it. I think like just generally like keeping your guy alive and powering your ship is easy enough. But then for the other stuff, it's like, oh, I need emeralds, so I can either blow up some asteroids or I can buy X amount from the trade center and this and that.
Space battles are pretty bad.
Yeah, I've heard people say too that they don't like the controls of the ships, and I can understand. It's a little bit floaty and slow. I think for space battles, but I enjoyed the one that I've had.
I've had a bunch of them, and I've powered up my ship enough to the point where, because you'll discover more crashed ships as the game goes on, you can restore them. But like all in all, oh man! And when I found my crashed ship, I was on this purple planet that was mostly water. Like, I can remember that moment because that was special because something happened, and every once in a while something happens and it stays with you. There's memories to be had in this game. I don't care if it's all procedurally generated. They've nailed what makes a game interesting and engaging. I'm very sad to see people disparage No Man's Sky, And like I said, I ain't no console fanboy. I ain't defending nobody from the Xbox. Fuck it, I love my Xbox One. Can't wait for Scorpio.
There you go.
Hey, by the way, toot. Let's go on to more No Man's Sky news because that was a minute, bro.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky. Let's see right here. Sorry, just think about No Man's Sky. It's great. Two players were able to find each other in the exact same galaxy on the very first day.
That's crazy to me.
Except they couldn't see each other. What gives?
Oh my god.
So people were upset about this. I thought, who gives a shit, because they never promised you could see another player.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that they're on the same server. However, Sean Murray said, we added a scan for other players in the galactic map to try and encourage this happening. We want it to happen, but the first day? We want people to be aware that they are in a shared universe. We added online features and some Easter eggs to create cool moments. We hope to see those happening, but too many of you are playing right now. That's why it didn't happen. Now, more than we could have predicted. It is a testament to how amazing our network coders are that discoveries are still working at all. So there's something that was supposed to happen there that didn't happen. And he didn't say what it was. Is there actually online play here or not? Do you think we'll ever see another player? Because it seems weird that he's like, oh yeah, we put some Easter eggs and cool stuff in there. What is it? He said, but unfortunately too many of you are playing right now, so it's not working.
Yeah, I think it's conceivable, and it could just been another bug because, like we discussed before, there's a lot of weird wrinkles. Even with the pre-launch DLC, you started off with like a warp core and some other stuff, and I guess if you did a pretty simple few things, like if you warped before you found one thing or the other, you could actually like sequence break the game and basically wreck your playthrough. So yeah, I think this is something. It's not going to be like, oh, call up your buddies and hop around to planets together. Like, I don't think that's the point that we're at. But I know in the first week of launch, we had the first day people said they were on the same planet or whatever. People are already discovering planets that other people have discovered, other galaxies that other people have discovered. This is already happening. So it seems inevitable, but I think right now the servers are probably at maximum load. So
there is a PRESSURECAST planet, and there's definitely a Video Games Are Dumb galaxy, and there's a First Hour planet. So go try and find those.
There's also an Optimism Vaccine planet with a subplanet called Butt Stuff.
Yeah, I totally understand now why people just destroyed countries and named them after themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have looked down on history for far too long, but now the moment I had the The roles were reversed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah.
Also, it speaks to how indebted we all are to capitalism because both of our first inclinations were, cool, I discovered a galaxy. Time to name it after a website that I run.
My stuff, my planet. All right, toot toot. Unfortunately, not everyone is having a great No Man's Sky experience, and I'm not just talking about the babies out there, I'm talking about PC players. The game was delayed until Friday as opposed to Tuesday, and unfortunately there's plenty of stutters, crashes, blank screens when you start the game that have not been resolved. In fact, over 4,000 Steam reviews have given it a rating of mostly negative. So here's what Sean Murray had to say. A frankly insane amount of people have just tried to run No Man's Sky for the first time within 15 minutes of its releasing. Oh, sorry, I almost double said that. Biggest issue reported so far is players without the Visual C++ redist 2010 first patch released already. Update and restart if needed. I always see people pointing at that Visual C++. It never solves shit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I had Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC, like, oh, you got C++? Yeah, I do. Yeah, believe it or not, I've used this in the past year. Number 2 issue is so far as players who have out-of-date GFX drivers or none installed. Please install latest drivers for AMD and NVIDIA. I've seen a lot of people accidentally do that when it comes to whatever game. They forget to install the drivers. This does not appear to be that. Number 3, please make sure your GFX card is above the minimum spec. OpenGL 4.5 is required to play No Man's Sky. If you've seen the specs for the PC version, they are very, very, very small specs. In other words, this is bullshit, man. There's way too many people. This is not one of those, fringe issues, because every PC game is going to have that issue where it's like, sorry, dude, your CPU and your GPU, for whatever reason, just don't agree on this one particular title. We never built around that. But this is widespread across. Look at the Steam forums. It's like, I got a 970, I got an AMD, I've got this CPU, I've got that CPU, I have this much RAM, I have a fucking 1080, and this game is stuttering and crashing like crazy. You know, I don't know. What say you about it? Is this a big mistake from a small team?
I don't know if it's a big mistake, but it's almost inevitable.
I mean, to release this game so close after the PlayStation 4 when they are literally a very small team, like single-digit people.
Yeah, I think that is a problem, but it's also, from a business standpoint, it makes the most sense. Like, you kind of have to. I think it'll get better in the coming weeks, but I've certainly seen the few problems I've had on the PlayStation 4 have been like, whatever. But the PC stuff seems to be more prevalent. I was watching a PC gameplay preview just because I was really interested in how other people were experiencing this game, like how their experience differed from my own. And the PC seemed to stutter like a lot.
No, I saw some video. It looks like garbage.
You're gonna run into issues with a game like this just because, better than any game I've ever seen, bar none, this game avoids loading screens and hides loading. Like, the only time where it's clear that you're loading is when you're warping. But other than that, like when you're in the worlds, it doesn't feel like it ever has to load anything, which is crazy.
You go up to space, go back to the planet, go up to space, go back to the planet. You don't feel like there's any loading.
Yeah, absolutely seamless, which is nuts. So it's also built on a proprietary engine. Like, they didn't use Unity or Unreal or anything. So you're going to run into issues that haven't been ironed out in the engine because you literally just built an engine to do all this. There's going to be problems.
I mean, I understand what you mean by from a business standpoint. Strike while the iron's hot, all that kind of good stuff. But this does seem like a more PC-centric game than a console game. It's kind of shocking that this is a big-time PlayStation 4 release.
Yeah, I assumed that the game would have problems, but I expected the inverse. I figured the PlayStation 4 would be having all these problems and the PC version would be better off.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I really feel they should have postponed this, and people would probably be crying foul going, damn it, Sony bought them off, or whatever bullshit they want to believe. Exclusives don't help games, whatever. But I do believe that if they would have postponed this and released it in a stable state, I think it would be getting a far better reception than even the PlayStation 4 version, because this feels like a classic PC game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, let's just move on. All right. Well, toot toot. Final Fantasy 15 reportedly has been delayed. This is coming from an unnamed source at GameStop. They were talking to Gamenesia. The quote is that promotional materials with the new due date have arrived at some GameStop stores with instructions that they are not to be put up until after Sunday, August 14th, so an official announcement could be coming then. Interesting. That would actually be yesterday. Well, today when we're recording this.
To the surprise of no one, when was the last time a Square Enix game wasn't delayed?
Well, hold on. We don't know. Okay, so here's the thing. A 2-month delay, because this game was originally supposed to be out on September 30th, but a 2-month delay is traditionally to fix issues. That's actually something. This isn't one of those things where it's being delayed by 2 weeks for more manufacturing of discs or to get a day one patch. This means there's actually probably something they really want to nail down before the game officially goes gold. So 2 months wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah.
However, this is one GameStop source. No one else has really reported this. They're the only website. No one else has any confirmation. Is someone just tricking the media?
I mean, it's entirely possible. I know I joke, but Square Enix does have a long history of delaying their games significantly. I think what this could be is there's actually, going back to No Man's Sky, there's a really wonderful like editorial piece that Rami Ismail, I think his name is. Yeah, the guy who made Nuclear Throne. He wrote about just the whole process of getting certified by like PlayStation or whatever. So you put a game on Steam, you can literally put anything on Steam. Like we can just we'll make a game where it's just an FMV of me taking a dump. I can put that on Steam if I have a publisher.
Early
access. Green light this turd simulator. A turd simulator probably exists.
That article is really good though. That has been making the rounds.
But one of the things it touches on is like you have different degrees of things that you have to hit. So you know, you can ship a game with minor bugs, but there's certain things that a game has to be able to do. Even things that you wouldn't normally think about. Like you have to have something on the, if you have like a start screen, like it has to say press start or press X to continue or something. Like there's all these like little things that you have to do. So a lot of times the reason why day one patches exist is because there's bigger issues, but the game got certified, but now they need to take the time to do all this shit because when you get a game certified, it's not like you can immediately resubmit. If you certify and you don't pass, then you have to you basically have to schedule a new date for certification, which could be 3 months from now.
And not only that, but what you're talking about is that it's the expectation of the platform holder that you will release a day one patch. It's sort of like, all right, you're certified. Can you fix this? Okay, great. And that's why you're sometimes going to see some games that have a day one patch and it fixes nothing, and they go, how could they release this? Well, that's because they said they would, and they didn't. And it's a game of trust because in this generation, there are so many moving parts. I don't care if you're developing on Unreal or some sort of engine that you've had for years and years and years and years and years. It doesn't matter. Everything's just on the train. Things are falling off all the time, and you're having to throw them back in there, and you're basically duct taping everything together, and then people play it and they go, wow, that was a really good game. And every programmer knows underneath there is chaos. And it's amazing any video game works in this day and age.
Yeah, well, and people talk about this all the time, about how a lot of times you'll change one thing in your code to fix a bug, and then by fixing that bug, you create 3 more bugs. So there's all kinds of things to deal with. And I'd say recently, probably in the last year, I've really softened my stance on day one patches just because
you've been talking to me more.
The process that goes on behind the scenes, like from isolated, the idea of day one patches rubs me the wrong way. But when you consider it in the broader context of the game industry, it makes sense.
Well, and I mean, we'll talk more about the Final Fantasy delay in just a second, but I see a lot of people saying, you know, the internet infrastructure in America isn't good enough, and developers need to take that into account. No, they don't. They absolutely do not. There is no shame in the developers. There is shame, whatever is holding us back from having better internet in those areas, that's what we should be putting pressure on. Shame on them.
The Telecommunications Act of 1996?
Shame on them. That is that because they are you know, this is a little bit of a soapbox here, but they are holding back entire populations of people from gaining access to the internet, and which is going to be fundamental in the job market today. So shame on them, not on the developers.
Yeah. That's PRESSURECAST homework for all the listeners. Go just Google and read the Wikipedia page for the Telecommunications Act of 1996. It literally is the reason why your internet sucks and your cell phone service blows.
And then you look at South Korea, and they're literally like 300 years ahead. And Japan is going to build Neo Tokyo soon. Anyway, but yes, Square Enix, they'd be in a little bit of a bind here. Even though they make a lot of money from mobile, even though they're going to have Deus Ex coming out. If there was really a delay to Final Fantasy coming out after Black Friday, would that significantly impact the sales? Or is the audience mature enough where they'll buy it for themselves? It doesn't matter. This is now a child's game.
I think as long as they can hit in like the fall fourth quarter window, they'll be okay. If you get it out on or around Black Friday, you're fine. you're fine.
I think this fall is going to be a real fall brawl. Toot toot.
Good WCW reference.
At the fall brawl. Okay, let's talk about Prey for a second. Over at E3, we saw the reveal of Prey, which of course was the name of a game from 2006 made by Human Head, who then tried to make a sequel that was canceled, and now there's this game called Prey. Doesn't look like Prey, doesn't look like Prey 2. Pray tell, why is this called Prey? Well, according to difficult to pronounce Italian name, Raphael Colatino. There we go. Yeah. Well, it was a matter of, you can tell this is just an audio quote. He did not write this. Well, it was a matter of, first of all, it's hard to find a name for a game, and it's a good name. Sounds good. Sounds good.
That's the most asinine explanation I've ever heard.
I think he's just put on the spot here. I think the association that people have about Prey is that it's about aliens on a space station, and it's a first-person game. When we were done with Dishonored, part of the team did Dishonored 2, and the other part of Arcane, because that's the studio that's going to be developing this, great studio, we wanted to do another one of those games that we usually do, which are in first person, with depth and simulation and narration, all that. This time, we wanted to make it on a space station with aliens, and you had to survive a full ecology, etc. As we started it, the name was available, and the connections were easy to be made. We just thought, okay, makes sense, so here we go. Prey is not a sequel, it is not a remake, it has no tie to the original. Now before we poo-poo on this concept here, let us look over to, speaking of Italians, let's go to Italy for a second and talk about Zombie. And all the sequels, the unofficial sequels to Dawn of the Dead that it produced. Is it possible that this follow-up to Prey will actually bring the franchise into a better standing than it ever was before?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because, I mean, that really speaks more, not to, there's no reason why Lucio Fulci's Zombie was called Zombie 2 and Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie in Italy. It's a complex thing. It's another Wikipedia thing for you.
Fan fiction.
So the reason why Fulci called it that was because there was a loophole that allowed him to do it, and he knew that he could make money if he basically billed it as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, even though it wasn't. I don't think Prey has the cultural cachet of George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. It's ridiculous. It's almost reminiscent, if we're talking horror franchises. Halloween, at some point, decided that they would try and make Halloween into just a broader horror franchise instead of the Michael Myers.
Witch, baby.
Yeah, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which I actually love, but that's a topic for another podcast.
Amazing ending.
Listen to the OpVadcast if you want to hear me gush about Halloween 3. Anyways, the point is, it's bizarre to me because when you have a name like Dawn of the Dead or you have a name like Halloween, like that comes with enough cultural cachet where you're like, okay, this, even if it's not like the original thing, we can at least dupe people into going into it with like limited expectations of what it's going to be. Prey isn't really a thing. It wasn't wildly successful. I think it had a cult following, and most people were like, yeah, this is deeply flawed, but fun and kind of interesting, and it'll be nice to see if this series turns into anything.
Is it really that good of a name? That's my biggest thing.
No, it's generic as shit.
Well, I see that on a GameStop shelf, and I see the words Prey, and I'm like, whatever. Because the first Prey didn't do that well, and the first Prey I didn't think was a great game, but it had moments, and it had a lot of elements that were very, very, very impressive for the time. If you had a brand new Xbox 360 and you needed to show off how good the system was and how we were entering a new era, that was the perfect game because it had giant cutscenes. It had like the Portal effect before there was Portal, where you'd enter one area through a almost like a sliver, like a dimensional sliver in there. It was a good enough first-person shooter. I just don't understand. To me, that always was like an old man game, kind of like, oh, they don't make first-person shooters like that anymore, and and so people picked out Prey instead.
Yeah, again, one of these things where I don't understand. They're like, oh yeah, we got to have this name. This is the name.
Yeah, really. Okay, let's move on. Toot toot. So, someone was on Twitter, surprise, surprise, and they tweeted at the official Hitman Twitter. And they said this: any plans for a season 2 for Hitman, or any more episodes after it's done? They responded,
oh, that's strange.
Of course, our plan is to have 3 seasons, although season 2 hasn't been confirmed yet.
What?
Now,
We're going to have 3 seasons, but we haven't confirmed the second?
it basically sounds like Kickstarter at this point. But what I'm trying to get at right here is that if they did get, to season 3, could they get to season 4? Could they get to season 5? Could we see a point where episodic games that have original levels, so I'm not comparing it to something like World of Warcraft or, things that are, or Minecraft, where you can just add stuff. You put things in the game, but actually building brand new stages, continuing a story. Could we see something basically like American television, where it continues season after season after season until it becomes no longer profitable and they just cancel the project?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see more games try this out. We've talked before about how I generally like smaller games after I just gushed about No Man's Sky for 20 minutes because I don't have a lot of free time, so it's nice for me to consume games in little bite-sized pieces. And it's great for things like Telltale games, but it's cool to start seeing other genres embracing this. And part of the fun of Hitman for me is I can play through a level of Hitman and I can kind of absorb the entire level and really get intimately familiar with it, which is not something you really get in a bigger game. Like if Hitman Season 1 was just one big game, I think people wouldn't.
They'd marathon
deep.
it. They wouldn't stop and go, oh, look at all these different things you can do in this stage, which you can do so much stuff in that game.
Exactly. So I think it encourages players to approach games in maybe a different way, and that can be really beneficial with certain titles. So I would absolutely love to see more episodic games.
I just think a lot about what happened with Halo 4 and how they tried to do that episodic thing that was going to continue the story after the game, and it just fell apart. No one cared. It was bland. It was boring. The stage design was crap. And I think this is just something that people are going to have to learn, just like how people learned how to do television. You look at early television, and it's it's a lot of just kind of like one backdrop. People walk on stage, and they yell at each other, and then people threaten with domestic violence, and then the credits roll, and it's a classic. But as time went on, they're like, wait, we need to build multiple sets. Let's use one camera for like a dramatic effect. And I really believe that's what they're going through right now with video games. And sooner or later, people are just going to get it. I've heard a lot of people talk about how they make the shows like Arrow and The Flash, and how they bring these directors on, and the directors basically just say, action, and then they say cut, and they can add a little bit of visual flourish, but they know how to make that show so well that they automatically know, like, we structure it like this, this, and this. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like Hitman or something that actually has original stages, being like, okay, we're going to develop a stage. Obviously, we're going to want to do this, this, this. We want this stealth aspect. We want this surprise attack. We want this avenue. We want this Easter egg. And how do we put that all together and just bam, this is a brand new concept. We've never seen anything like this. Whereas Telltale is kind of an on-the-rails adventure game. This is an entire world you can explore. This is the opposite, really, of Telltale. So I'm tremendously optimistic that we can start doing things like this. Because video games really are kind of more like British television or some forms of anime where there's a conclusion. But now we can maybe take on that American approach where there is no ending. Because that's fine, because endings are usually the worst part about video games.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's move on. Toot toot. Toot toot. We have The Killing Floor 2 officially having a release date on November 18th for $30 on the PC and PlayStation 4. This game has been in early access for over a year. We saw it at E3 last year. And honestly, I look at that game and I see a Quake-style shooter. Fast-paced, run and gun. Doesn't really appeal to me, even though I like that type of game. I just don't really like the art style. Maybe I'm missing out on something. But the PlayStation 4, I understand it's a popular console, but do you think that really that's the market for this? Especially when you have something like a Call of Duty or a Rainbow Six Siege or even an Overwatch already kind of cornering that market.
Well, I think you raised a really good point, because Killing Floor is okay. It's not for me. But I think part of its popularity is it's a solid, fast-paced, arena-based shooter, and it's also perpetually on sale on Steam.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those games where you can get for a couple bucks any day of the week. So people,
free weekend.
Yeah, people are just always willing to take a flyer on it, and people are like, oh yeah, this is cool. I'm gonna keep playing this. I don't know if it's gonna attract the same crowd on PlayStation 4. I'm inclined to say no, it won't. But at the same time, I know the developers are revered and they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
very impressive graphics.
Yeah. Not for me. I'm going to stick with Overwatch. But, hey, You know, maybe people dig it.
And they didn't put it in the news here, but Rainbow Six Siege is just surging in popularity. Like more and more people are picking that game up, which is actually one of the reasons I stopped doing things like First Hour the way I used to do them, because I walked away thinking, this game isn't so good, and then I couldn't stop playing it for the rest of the weekend. You know, and it's kind of like, well, that's not a good way to approach this. But I think a lot of people are starting to latch on, going, wait a minute, this is a lot of fun. So that really gives I wonder about the genres of first-person shooter and how much space there really is. I wonder if there's really enough diversity to have that fast running gun when you do have the teamwork, or you do have the sort of tactical, and then you also have the sort of Call of Duty running gun.
Yeah, well, and let's face it, everything kind of feels a little bit pedestrian in the shadow of Overwatch. So.
Don't you mean plebeian? That's a thing now. I hate it. Let's move on. Toot toot. Transformers: Fall of Cybertron. It was on the Xbox 360. It was on the PlayStation 4. I'm sorry, PlayStation 3, and it was on the PC. And then, out of nowhere, it was available on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 for $50. Activision just dropping it on the digital distribution front without any sort of announcement. It included 3 DLC packs.
Oh.
Let's consider this, however. This is the third time they've done this as far as I know. They did this with the Prototype Collection. Out of nowhere. They did this with the Marvel Ultimate Alliance Collection. Out of nowhere. Are they just taking things from last generation and dumping them without any sort of thought? Just, hey, surprise, this is out. Maybe gets people to, buy it before they realize these are usually pretty bad port jobs? Or is this a actual test for a brand new strategy, trying to emulate what they do with mobile games, where they come out whenever, instead of being announced in advance? And possibly this is them just seeing, how does that function? Well, what's the cheapest way we can test this? We can't just make a new game. Let's take some of the last-gen games, throw it out there, see how it does for day one and for the rest of the week. Because Activision's a big company. They're a very big business. Am I reading too much into this? Or are they actually testing a brand new way to release games?
I think you got the tinfoil hat going.
I'm just saying,
the reason why there's not a big marketing machine behind mobile games is because it's a lot more fast-paced as a platform. We've talked about this before, about how, people overvalue King games and stuff like that in the stock market, and they don't realize that mobile games are so fleeting. Even Pokemon Go, still wildly popular, still the most popular mobile game, but it kind of loses that cultural zeitgeist. Whereas part of home console games and PC games to a slightly lesser extent, it's more wrapped up in this big marketing machine. I think this is an easy way for them to say, you know what, we've figured out a simple way to package these games and drop them on the PlayStation Marketplace. They're well known enough, but it's not worth investing a massive amount of PR and marketing behind them. So you know what? Here's the game. Here's a release day, release week, press release. That's it.
Or maybe it's just thrifty enough to test this out. And I mean,
it wouldn't make any sense. I mean, are you really gonna, what kind of game are you gonna drop? Let's say that's not a port. What's an original IP that they could just drop?
Well, I can't say them particularly. I can just point to other examples where this has happened. You look at Five Nights at Freddy's, where instead of having a release date, maybe they will, then they just release it 5 days early. They're like, fuck it, here you go, everybody.
Well, and that's part of the marketing and the mystique of Five Nights at Freddy, though. That's part of that game's brand, is sort of the weirdness and the lore wrapped up in it, and the fact that it's one guy who just randomly does stuff, who randomly announces games, who just drops things. That's part of what makes Five Nights at Freddy's Five Nights at Freddy's.
But how beneficial is it to have all this pre-release coverage, no release date, and then the next big story, the time that you appear on the front page of IGN or GameSpot or wherever, is where the game's out. Surprise, the game is out. You're getting all this free PR. And it's about the game is out now, and you can just go play it right now. I think there's something to that idea.
I disagree. I think there's, from a PR and marketing standpoint, it's not great unless it's a legacy thing that people are already familiar with. Because part of marketing and PR, don't you shake your head at me, motherfucker.
I just wanted to shake my head right in the camera.
This is literally what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that you have,
to be fair, you've only released 2 Transformers games in your whole life, so don't tell me this is all you do.
The whole idea is, you're with marketing, with all this pre-release coverage, whether you're doing fucking vacuum cleaners or video games, you're building brand familiarity, okay? And by building that brand familiarity, you get people excited. You get them on the hype train. the reason you can drop these games in there is because they already have cultural cachet, they already have brand familiarity. We know what these things are. You don't need to do an entire pre-release things, especially if they're quick and dirty ports.
Speaking of quick and dirty ports, well, hopefully this one isn't quick and dirty, but Dead Rising 1 and 2, as well as Dead Rising 2 off the record, are coming to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. We already knew this. However, we finally have release dates, and it's a little weird. Weirder than you might expect. Okay, so all the games are going to be out on September 13th for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 and PC, I should mention, because the very first Dead Rising has never been on PC before.
Oh.
Fantastic. However, if you want to go to a store and buy the game, you can only buy the first Dead Rising for $20, same price as the download. The physical release for Dead Rising 2, which also includes Off the Record, will be available September 27th.
So they're not packaging all three together. You
have to, and they're not even releasing them physically on the same day as they're releasing the digital version. You only get the first Dead Rising the same day as the digital and all the rest of the games. But if you want the physical version of that game, you have to wait 2 weeks.
Why isn't this just the Dead Rising collection?
You know,
that would make too much sense.
Well, Dead Rising 3 is not part of it, I guess, and that's only on Xbox One and PC. But this is all to get people hyped up for Dead Rising 4, which comes out on December 6th. I really can't wait for that game. Toot toot. Speaking of more ports, there is a rumor going around that perhaps Vanquish might be coming to PC.
Ooh.
I know. In case you never played Vanquish, you're essentially a man in a robot suit who can jetpack around and shoot things hella fast in a third-person shooter. Really fun game. Never came to PC, but the co-founder of Platinum, Atsushi Inaba, had this to say. If you stop recording, I can talk about that. That's what he said when he was asked about if the game would come to PC. If you stop recording, I can talk about that. He also mentioned we're good friends with Valve, and we often go to their studio. We go there, hang out, talk about many different things, and we're very interested in Steam and would definitely like to release games on Windows. Platinum doesn't release games on Windows, which is sort of a crime because of how amazing they are with the technology they're given.
Mm-hmm.
Like 60 frames per second and just blistering visuals, whether that's Bayonetta or Vanquish, or even all the way, you know, a lot of these people are Clover Studio people, so things like Beautiful Joe. They seem like they're made for PC, man. How would you actually care if Vanquish came to PC?
Yeah, I want more people to play it. I think it's one of the most underrated games of last generation. It's basically everything that I wanted Gears of War to be when I first played it. It's super fast-paced, and it's so fluid, and it's almost like imagine Gears of War, but bullet hell at 10 times the speed, and there's almost like a rhythm element to it, and how you're going to move around the map. It's really cool.
And you smoke cigarettes the entire time?
You smoke cigarettes the entire time. It's
while
badass.
You're flying around on a space colony shooting people. By the way, the worst part about that game was using a controller. Having a mouse to aim super fast, that sounds... And I'm not a snob like that. I like using controllers generally more than mice, but that would be the game that would push me over the edge.
It'd be interesting. I guess my only red flag would be there was a long and storied history of Japanese game developers doing really shitty ports for PC just because PC gaming isn't that popular in Japan. So that could be a problem.
Just wait for VQ.fix. It'll be fine. Toot toot. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare's zombie mode will be revealed on August 16th. That's basically the entire story right there. The game's going to be out on November 4th. They need to get this reveal right because people ignored that amazing E3 presentation, which me and you were in the same room. We were both very impressed by Call of Duty Infinite Warfare at E3.
Yeah. Because it didn't look like Call of Duty.
And they didn't say it was Call of Duty till the end. And my jaw dropped and went, no way. Because we kept saying, oh, is this Colony Wars? Because it was all the space stuff. But that very first reveal was disastrous. It had the most dislikes on YouTube at its time, which is a big news story. But really, they have to get this right. They have to get people excited. There were all those ideas that they were going to spin out zombies, but it seems like such a right way to do this. Kind of like what they're doing with Modern Warfare being exclusive to like that $80 version of the game. Keeping it all together as one package, I really think is going to just keep the momentum for Call of Duty. Black Ops 3, still the best-selling game of this generation. Still, all these times. What about you, man? Do you ever play the zombie mode in Call of Duty?
No.
Really?
I don't play a lot of Call of Duty.
Oh, my God.
You know I don't play Call of Duty.
But the zombie mode's really fun.
No.
Dude, my favorite one, Black Ops, where you can play as Robert McNamara and JFK and Nixon. Super good. Really good.
Huh.
And Johnson. I think it was Johnson. I can't really remember. Toot toot. Project Spark is over. Officially, it was shut down on August 12th. I wish there was a news story really here, but all I can say is thank God, what a disaster, what a steaming pile of shit. However...
Dude, check out your first hour video on the Conquer DLC.
Oh, yeah, that didn't result in people, like, randomly sending me fucking death threats. I had to delete those comments. But here's the thing. Scream Ride, the thing where you built roller coasters. Project Spark. These are two titles that came out on the Xbox One and the PC at the same time. So even though Project Spark is over, it did lay the foundation for what is now that Xbox Everywhere program.
That's what a wonderful legacy.
Speaking of which, toot toot. Quantum Break. It came out on the Xbox One. It eventually came out on the PC. But if you wanted to play the PC version, there was only one place to go, the Windows Store. And you had to have Windows 10. But now Remedy's head of communication, Tom Pua, had this to say. When tweeted at him like, hey, this game still is busted after all these patches. Sorry to hear you're having problems. It's unlikely we'll release another Windows 10 patch.
Oh, okay.
This coincided with the announcement that Quantum Break is coming to Steam and will be available for $40 on September 14th. It sounds like they completely abandoned the project and are just going to focus on the Steam version now.
That seems about right.
So Xbox Play Anywhere. You just have to use the Windows Store. It's going to be good.
It's going to be great.
Is this not the worst start you could have for a promotion like that? First of all, Project Spark, complete disaster. So bad they had to shut it down. Quantum Break, your first big game where like, this is PC, this is Xbox One. Hugely controversial. People saying, damn it, I thought this was going to be an Xbox One exclusive. I might as well buy a PC. And then they announce all these additional PC programs. And the game's completely busted. Well, not completely, but many people, it's busted. Frame rates, crashes, everything. And now they're like, we're not even going to try and fix it. And that's the platform you're literally going to be releasing all these other games on. If you're a PC user, don't you just immediately run the other way? Will you ever use the Windows 10 store?
Well, and I think the thing we're overlooking here is I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going like, oh, there's a Windows 10 store where you can buy video games?
Yeah, man. Don't you want to play Bejeweled?
Oh, do I ever?
But I mean, will you ever buy any game on there?
I guess if I have to. I mean, if there's an Xbox One game that's coming out, I don't have an Xbox One, and I really want to play it, I guess that's what I got to do.
But the game is broken. Well, Quantum Break was broken, and they're not going to fix it. That's it. It's over. That's
a little troubling. I'm hoping whatever comes out, if I want to buy it, it'll be less broken.
I think that's shameful. That's stupid from a PR standpoint, because I don't know about you, I will never buy one of those games until I see a game that's been successfully updated frequently for other users, because that just communicates to me that if it doesn't work, too bad. You know?
Yeah,
which is
kind of shitty.
Which is fair enough, except for the fact that they are clearly putting out another version that they will update. That's where I'm...
Well, at least there's no Xbox One games that I want to play right now. Hey-o.
Sure, okay. Speaking of which, toot toot, Xbox One is a brand new backwards compatible game, Shank 2.
Okay. That's been on Steam for like 10 years.
Honestly, I had a chance to play that once, and I gotta tell you, it's boring. Toot toot, Pokemon Uranium. Does that exist? Did Nintendo acknowledge this? What is it?
Fuck.
For the past 9 years, a group of fans have been making their very own Pokemon game that includes a brand new area, a brand new type of Pokemon, Nuclear type, which is kind of cool. And now it's available free for download. Looks like a Game Boy Advance Pokemon game. That's basically the whole story. It will continue in the chart park. Let's put a pin on it. Let's talk about the games that are going to be out this week. On Tuesday, Valentino Rossi, The Game, which is a racing game, will be out. 2064, Read-Only Memories is coming out on the PlayStation 4 and Vita.
Cool.
The Huntsman, Winter's Curse on the PlayStation 4. Dungeon Punks on the PlayStation Vita. Vita exclusive, yeah.
That's cool.
I know. Adventure Capitalist, go figure, on the PlayStation 4. On Wednesday, Inverses on the PlayStation 4. Grow Up on the PlayStation 4, which is that Ubisoft game. We'll make you feel the game. On Friday, F1 2016 on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Let's get to the real shit right here. Well, there's going to be Metroid Prime Federation Force, the very first Metroid game in about 6 years or whatever, on the 3DS. But let's get to the real shit. This Friday on the 3DS. Get there early. Where? Who cares? Is it the post office? Is it GameStop? Is it Best Buy? Get there early. You're going to want to beat the rush. You're going to want to beat the line because Style Savvy, Fashion Forward is coming out on the 3DS.
Ooh, tell me more.
You want to pick that dress? You want to pick those shoes? Be there. Boop, boop. That's going to do it for the hype train. Feels good to be off the train.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that we're off the train, what do you say we get out the lunch pails and get our little sand shovels and have a little fun over in a place that's always warm with the glow of cold hard cash? That's right, it's time for... the Chart Park. The land where money grows on trees. Yes, the Chart Park. This is the part of the show where we talk about all the legal, business, and financial news in the video game industry, and we find out which fat cats of Wall Street will tip their top hats towards Lady Luck. We have to start off with some big-time news about Xbox One, Steve.
Oh, boy.
Here it is. According to the NPDs, and Xbox released this information of their own volition because the NPDs aren't out yet. We'll be talking about the top 10 best-selling games next week. But for right now, we know that the Xbox One was the best-selling console in the month of July. According to Aaron Greensberg, nice to be back on top. Great. However, the marketing boss of Xbox, Mike Nicholas, had this to add. In July, the total gaming hours on Xbox consoles globally were up 18% over last year, reaching 1.55 billion hours. So is Mike Nicholas, who is the head of the marketing division of Xbox, once again being like, hey, we're the best-selling console of the month. I would rather not even talk about that. Let's just talk about random numbers and Xbox Live accounts and things like that. Do they just not want to talk about it even if they're winning?
Yeah, well, and it sounds great, right? But it's also like common sense because more people own, whether you sold a bajillion Xbox Ones or just 3, more people are going to be online playing it. Like, they're selling these things every month. So I would sincerely hope that numbers are up 18% because you have a larger user base. Like, that goes without saying. But if you don't think about it, it sounds great.
But it almost undersells the fact that they are getting a significant amount of momentum. Consider this. So let me get this right. The Xbox One, best-selling console in July. Fantastic. You know what came out this month? The Xbox One S, which also, this is important to mention, over in the UK, they saw a 75% sales spike for the Xbox One. The Xbox One S is completely sold out of the UK. No one can find them. They're going up on eBay for outrageous prices for this console. I just don't understand. When things are going right, they don't want to boast about that. This is the very first time they've beaten PlayStation since October of last year. It just seems weird to me that they wouldn't want to tout just for a moment.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't want to jinx it or something.
I mean, Greensberg's like, good to be back on top, baby. And then the head of marketing is just kind of like, oh, yes, 1.55 billion hours were played on Xbox. That's 18% increase over. Just talk about the sales, buddy.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all.
Oh, by the way, the 3DS was actually the best-selling video game device of last month, which is about Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing. The Xbox One UK marketing boss, so this is the Xbox One UK marketing boss, had this to say, while stock of the 2TB has sold out, gamers can already pre-order the Xbox One 2TB Gears of War Limited Edition. Our aim between now and Christmas is to drive excitement for the range of new Xbox One S consoles that will be available with great new features, including 4K video streaming capabilities. We will be sharing further details on other Xbox One S bundles, variations, and pricing in the weeks to come. Also mentioned, that's it. No more 2TB white Xbox Ones. They've ended production on that. They're only going to be making the Gears of War model right now. If you want a white Xbox, you either have to go on eBay, settle for the 1TB model, or 500GB model, which is not out yet. I would like to mention that if we go all the way back to 2009, the PlayStation 3 was in a bad place, right? They were not doing very well compared to 360. It was laughable. Laughable how badly they were doing. However, if we compare then and now, there's still a wider gap between the, just from a percentage standpoint, between the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But the market has grown. So when we see these big numbers, don't be foolish. The market has grown. Those kids that were all playing on the same Xbox 360. They grew up and they all have a PlayStation 4 of their own, basically.
Mm-hmm.
However, in 2009, Sony started doing some stuff that was pretty impressive. They started doing things like Uncharted 2, and they started hyping up things about Gears of War 3, and they saw a significant increase in the sales of PlayStation 3. They continued along till they almost, just barely, matched the Xbox 360, despite that long lead. And even the fact that the PlayStation 3 was released a year after the 360 was very important. Do you think that there is a possibility that we can actually see this generation wrapping up, including the Scorpio, including the Neo, including all these consoles, being rather neck and neck?
That's a question that you'll have to ask me in 3 months.
Why?
Because we have to wait. Because nothing that we talk about now is going to matter in 3 months. Because in order to determine whether or not Xbox can really catch up to PlayStation, we have to see how the Neo performs and if PlayStation VR takes off. If PlayStation has success with the Neo and with PlayStation VR, or even just one or the other, I think they'll continue to maintain their lead. If they falter, then we can see a closer race.
I honestly believe, I really believe that Xbox One is going to do very well. It's already doing very well.
I say, congratulations, your prediction has come true.
I want to predict everything under the sun. That way I can always be right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to do very well. I think it's going to do very poorly. But the thing about it is that this is almost a war of attrition between consumers and Microsoft. Month after month after month after month. Hey, the Xbox One, $350. It's $300. $279. You want 4 games with that? And they have kept this up every single month, where instead of having this sort of impulse buy, people keep looking over, and every time they look at that Xbox One, it gets a little bit more appetizing because they're keeping that price steady or a little bit lower, and they keep packaging in 4 titles at once, and not just some bogus kind of like, yeah, you get FIFA 14, you actually get games that are great, like Rise of the Tomb Raider, the Master Chief Collection, Sunset Overdrive, Forza. They're putting everything in there because they're trying to keep that market attention. They don't want you to forget about the Xbox One, and I honestly believe at the end of the day, it's going to cost them a lot of money. At the end of the day, the PlayStation 3 became profitable, but it cost them a lot of money to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I really think the Xbox One could see some real momentum coming up.
That's the other thing, too. It's like, how much does momentum cost? Like, at what point are you selling something for such a catastrophic loss that it's not worth it?
Well, remember earlier when we were talking about how the PlayStation 4 didn't really have that one exclusive that everyone had to buy the PlayStation 4 for? Well, they had more power. They had the more powerful console. So if you start to win over this, you start to change the image of the Xbox One, and then you release the most powerful console of all time, the Xbox Scorpio, which is how they're going to be marketing this. And it's also hopefully reasonably priced. Like they can really go blow for blow with the PlayStation 4. I really believe this could be a significant turning point. And the Xbox One S and this month might be the first steps there. Now, are they going to win next month? Or the month after that, I can't say, but I think this is laying the seeds here because the attach rate is great, and just the general opinion on Xbox One is no longer kind of like, oh yeah, you can play used games on there. You can't play used games. It's not like that anymore. I think TV. I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's some big deals here. By the way, real quick, I did write this down. It's doing very well right now in America. It's doing very well right now in the UK. Those are the 2 Microsoft markets. Because they're never going to get Japan.
Nope.
So I think that actually says a lot about their potential. Because those are the 2 markets that won them last generation. Moving on, we have more Microsoft news. They have officially acquired Beam. Beam is a interactive video game live streaming company. Basically, it allows you to interact with the people that you're watching. So let's say Steve is playing No Man's Sky, and I give him the challenge of not being shit at No Man's Sky, and he says, screw you, and he kicks me off his channel. But let's say someone else says, capture 4 uraniums. And they're like, okay. And you go and you do it, and basically that's how it works. You can actually, it can almost interact with the game. According to Microsoft, they say that Beam has evolved game streaming from a passive to a watch and chat experience into one with real-time participation by allowing viewers to directly influence a streamer's gameplay and live broadcast. So, I mean, if someone's playing and you're just like, I'm going to add swastikas everywhere. No, I'm kidding. You can't do that. But basically, this allows you to really interact with people. I think it's safe to say that YouTube live streaming is just a more stable alternative to Twitch. I think we can safely say that Twitch has been very stagnant for a very long time, but they have enhanced one area where you can give people money in the chat.
Oh yeah, tip jar, man.
Yeah. Could this actually enter the area and actually, take a good portion away from Twitch? Because it's actually, people like interacting with the people they watch. The people are obsessed with the people, live streamers and things like that. And oftentimes they're reading things from the chat and going, okay, I'll do that. And this makes it more built into the system. More importantly, though, do you think that we'll see this service across the board? Like I put on my PC and do whatever? Or will it be PC and Xbox One exclusive, cutting out Nintendo and cutting out PlayStation 4?
Yeah, well, first, I think Twitch has a lot of problems, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Just because they've weathered a lot of storms already, and that's like saying, oh man, Vimeo is such a better service than YouTube, they're going to take over.
No, they are.
Yeah, Vimeo is a great service. They're not going to fucking dethrone YouTube. It's never going to happen in a million years. Do you remember Blink?
Yes.
Okay, so that was like, hey, what if YouTube was amazing? Doesn't matter. It went away. So I don't think this is going to affect Twitch. And to your point of the interaction with people, I think that it would be interesting to watch in certain scenarios, except I'd have to know more about the service, because I'm picturing some of these streamers with, thousands and thousands and thousands of people who watch their live streams every single night, and just the chaos that it would create. I mean, have you ever watched a big event and you just look at the chat and it's just like, vroom, just moving like 1,000,000 miles per hour? You can't keep up with it.
That's where I learned that Bush did 9/11. I want to thank you, random commenter. I learned a lot from you. But think about it this way. Oh, man, what am I going to do? Am I going to shoot the Gek or am I not going to shoot the Gek? Let's throw up a poll. And then people can just click on that poll. That's an option right there.
Sure. And I think something like that that's legit. But you're going to have to iron out some things. And also, this is assuming that this is entirely proprietary and that this isn't something that Twitch would adopt later. Because Twitch is slow to change, but they do make changes from time to time.
Patents, baby. That might be why Microsoft bought them. Keep in mind also, they did announce that they're going to do their own esports thing and that they're also working with EA. This might be the first coming out party for them, being like, hey, look at our brand new service. You can watch it here.
Sure.
And why Twitch might be in danger, YouTube is an archive. It's where you go and you can watch videos through all different eras, Whereas Twitch, how many people are really watching that one stream from 4 months ago? Not many. It's of the moment. And I really believe that live streaming could shift quickly. Whereas YouTube, it's kind of like people have built up audiences, blah, 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 blah. Live streaming, it's just kind of like, I don't know, watch me on this channel. Okay, done.
Yeah, but I agree.
I mean, you're watching
it's more
live.
In the moment, but people have huge Twitch followings, and you don't just rebuild that overnight.
What if I offered you more money?
Offer me more money? What do you mean?
What if they start taking some of these Twitch people and said, hey, we'll give you $20,000 a year. You just exclusively stream here.
I mean, that's something you could consider, but even then, I think you'd make more money if I have millions of subscribers, whereas starting from zero and hoping to recoup that and then getting a small sum. There's a lot of moving parts here, and everything we're going to say is speculation, but I think it's going to take...
the truth, Steve. Acknowledge the truth.
It's going to take a lot. It's something bigger than this to dethrone Twitch.
Okay. Moving on. There is a brand new patent for the, Nintendo. We have no idea if this has anything to do with the NX directly. It is a device that uses a rotating dial or buttons or other things. They don't actually specify. Now, there's been a rumor for a long time they'd have a rotating dial, like a scroll wheel. It's been around, No word if this is a controller or just an accessory, but there's also a reference to an infrared camera that could read where the controller is and also could read gestures with hands. Now, let's just preface this. Patents don't mean products. But let's just speculate that this might be part of the NX.
Okay.
All right? That sounds like the Kinect.
Yeah.
Would that be a mistake?
Maybe? Is this a controller? What is this?
Now, let's imagine. Yeah, we don't know. But either way, the infrared camera would be...
When you said scroll wheel with a camera, I just...
No. The camera is part of the console, but the scroll wheel would be part of this accessory, but the camera would be in the console itself.
Huh. I don't know. I mean, that could be anything. It could go back to the idea of live streaming. Maybe Nintendo's getting on that train.
No.
The wheel thing, all I can think about is the paddle controller for the Atari 2600. So I hope it's just that.
That would be cool because I could play Kaboom like a madman.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think this is interesting because if you had a sort of Kinect-like experience on the go, that might work for kids or whatever. They're sitting around at Denny's knocking over all their hot chocolates, being little bastards, and then the parents can't take it anymore because they're already addicted to pain pills. So they put the thing right on the table and like, here, pretend you're wiping a window or whatever. And they're like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if Nintendo sees the success of Pokemon Go as something that they want to pursue further, I think incorporating more augmented reality-based hardware is probably a smart move.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't want VR because they like the AR. That's where they're going. And
there's a very strong argument, especially with Nintendo's kind of overarching like philosophy on video games, because VR it's very isolated, it's very singular, and Nintendo has been always been about like bringing people together to play video games. So augmented reality makes a lot more sense.
I would really look forward to seeing stupid historians saying that Nintendo really blazed a trail with AR, 20 years from now. Looking forward to that. Just ignoring all the PlayStation Eye and everything. That will happen. Mark my words.
Well, I mean, you could say the argument would be if Nintendo didn't originate it, they certainly popularized it with Pokemon Go. What you disagree?
They
with
didn't
that?
do Pokemon Go.
It doesn't matter. It's a Nintendo association.
Bush did 9/11. They did
Pokemon
not
Go doesn't exist without Nintendo's involvement. Period. Also,
well,
the other thing you have to remember is
25% involvement.
You're forgetting the 3DS's augmented reality.
I'm just saying. Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm just saying that's essentially saying you're not gonna have the Beatles wouldn't be the Beatles without Ringo. I'm saying you can probably get anybody there.
I think the better argument is Atari 2600 popularized the home video game console with switchable cartridges. Nobody's just like, yeah, but the fucking Fairchild F.
No, popularization and everything else. I'm just saying that PlayStation 4 camera sold out everywhere, and then you could watch some people fuck.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about it. That's the difference. People give a shit.
Nintendo gives a shit. They give a shit if you mess with their properties because a fan-made Metroid 2 game called AM2R stood for Another Metroid 2 Remake was released and immediately taken down from a cease and desist. The same thing happened to Pokemon last night. So, and here's what happened. Nintendo's broad library of characters, products, and brands are enjoyed by people around the world, and we appreciate the passion of our fans. This is Nintendo talking, of course. But just as Nintendo respects the intellectual property rights of others, we must also protect our own characters, trademarks, and other content. What about King Kong? The unapproved use of Nintendo's intellectual property can weaken our ability to protect and preserve it, or to possibly use it for new projects. Even the person that made the game said, leave Nintendo alone. I totally understand. The game's out there. You can find it. I don't mind. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know this is going to happen. This always happens.
They have no choice. Nintendo has their... If they don't do anything, then the next time this happens, they actually don't really have a case going like, well, wait a minute. There was that other remake, and you were aware of that, and you did nothing,
Yeah, the way American copyright law works is you have to show that you've done your due diligence to pursue people who violate your copyright, and if you can't prove that you do that, then it becomes more difficult for you to,
Which I'd be so happy if people would just lose the rights to their characters after a while. Like, who cares?
I know.
Like, who cares? I mean, they care because they're making all the goddamn money, but it's like...
Yeah, I think if I had one wish, it'd be that Sega could lose the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog. But
if I had one wish, I just wish I had the rights to Superman and Batman.
Yeah. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller.
Oh, I wish I had a girl I could call her. That'd be cool. But the thing is that there's two options here: either cease and desist or acquire the project. And if they acquire the project, it's going to be a never-ending barrage of people going, well, "Why didn't you acquire this one?" So that won't happen. Even though people were picking for it.
Yeah.
Moving on. Almost did the toot-toot. Did not do it. THQ is back. Yes,
okay.
Really. THQ is back. Of course, THQ shut down because bankruptcy. But they did put out some great games, such as Red Faction, Darksiders, Saints Row the Third. Many titles.
WWE No Mercy.
It's very true. Although I would say WrestleMania 2000 far superior. Here's what happened. Nordic Games, they acquired a lot of THQ's properties, including the name apparently, and they've rebranded themselves THQ Nordic. Chief executive of THQ Nordic, Lars Wingsfors, had this to say. One could say the most defining moment for our company happened in 2013, grabbing headlines like, "Who the fuck is Nordic Games? Darksiders gets bought by Nordic Games?" And Nordic Games explains who the fuck they are. Plans for THQ assets. While we take great pride in our Swedish roots and accomplished a great deal under the Nordic Games masthead, we decided it was time to incorporate the THQ name. Those key brands will continue to shape our business in a meaningful way going forward, and THQ Nordic represents a core approach of doing more than owning a highly competitive portfolio of IP. We cherish them and align them with the very best development resources to expand upon them with a level of experience that communities and established fan bases expect and deserve. Here's where it gets weird.
It's already kind of weird, but go ahead.
With this rebrand, we are entering the next phase in our company's evolution. As of now, we have 23 game projects in development. 13 thereof have not been publicly announced, but are sure to be in the next months. Needless to say, the majority of these projects are based on former THQ-owned IPs and franchises.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of 23 games at the same
How big is Nordic Games?
Not very big. Not very big.
Also, can we just talk about how I love...
Let me real quick. If you heard that Ubisoft had 23 games coming out, wouldn't you even be like, hold up, that's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are you saying? Sorry.
So their solution to when they bought THQ, they're right. Everybody went, who the fuck is Nordic Games? Okay, so the answer to who the fuck is Nordic Games is we will change our name so that we are like associated with a company that went bankrupt in horrible fashion. That's insane.
You know what? If you go to a party with Billy and she'll say, "Who are you?" You say, "Oh, I'm with Billy." You then talk about yourself. You don't talk about how you are Billy's friend and where all the places you and Billy go. You don't do that.
Like that's
Introduce
like,
yourself.
Yeah, you know, I decided to go and change my name. Oh, that's cool. What'd you change your name to? Jeffrey Dahmer. Why would you do that?
Jeffrey Dahmer cuff. I don't. One of the things is just when it comes down to it, that's a horrible name. Now, THQ, you can take it or leave it. It does have brand awareness. But THQ Nordic? What the hell does that mean? Toys Headquarters Nordic? That's a terrible name. I don't know. I don't know, seriously, man. Though, I don't care who you are. You announce... If Sony announced they're working on 23 games at the same time, I would be a little weirded out. Like, I could see maybe 15, 16. I don't know what they're planning on, if some of these are mobile titles, or some of these independent, you know, like kind of...
Well, maybe we're reading into...
Maybe they're just publishing some of these.
Yeah, and maybe we're reading into the idea of they're working on them, as in, like, we have planned in the next 5 years to complete a game.
They're announcing them in the next few months. They said the next month. So in less than 11 months, we're going to hear about 13 new titles from this publisher.
Jesus.
That's insane. You're insane. Moving on. Denevu. I don't know. It's copyright protection. People don't like it. Some people do. Who cares?
People like copyright protection.
We'll get into it. This has been involved in a number of games, such as The Phantom Pain, Mad Max, Battlefield Hardline, Dragon Age Inquisition, Tomb Raider, or I should say Rise of the Tomb Raider, Just Cause 3, Inside, Abzu, and Doom. However, apparently Torrent Freak announced that there's a Chinese hacking group that has found a way to get around it. Not by cracking it, but by bypassing it, which I'm not sure. You know, I'm only a Class A hacker. I'm not a Class AAA hacker. I know how to play the maze game, you know. Yes, so it's officially been bypassed, and it was for a version of, I want to say, Tomb Raider that they did this for. Previously, you could only do it with FIFA 16. So, who actually benefits here?
I don't know. I guess, well, here's the argument. So if I'm correct, I think the thing you're talking about is it's online authentication. That's how it works.
Well, yes, and some people have said they don't like it because it writes too much information onto solid-state drives, lessening the life cycle of a solid-state drive.
Yeah, it's hardware taxing, and then it also assumes a great deal about the audience, wherein you have access to an internet connection that is strong enough to handle this authentication.
You are buying a downloadable game.
Okay. The point is, it's stupid because they're saying if you don't have an internet connection, you can't play your thing.
Yeah, because you're buying a downloadable game. You're buying a game off the internet. Why wouldn't you have internet? But like, you're assuming that I can't get this in any other fashion. Right, and they'll even tell you up front, hey, you're going to need the internet to play this. Like, they're not tricking you. You know what I mean?
But there's no online component. Like, I know they're not tricking me. I'm just saying, like, you have to be able to ping the internet. And the problem that comes into play is even if I have reliable internet, okay, if their servers go down, I can't play my game. And that is not an outlandish scenario.
Okay.
Ask your buddies at Ubisoft. It happens all the time with them.
That would be Ubisoft, and that's fair. If we're talking about Ubisoft's issues, absolutely. We haven't seen the issues with this particular method, though.
The other thing is, too, is I can download, like, there's people who live out in the country that they download the new Tomb Raider game, and it takes them a fucking week, but they can download the new Tomb Raider
Don't blame
game.
the developers. You know, there's a far more sinister thing
going
on there.
I'm not blaming the developers, but you're basically telling a large segment of your audience, go fuck yourself if you don't have awesome internet.
It's the same with No Man's Sky then, because you have to have awesome internet to get these updates that are going to drastically fix the game with day one patches and things like that.
Well, but you can download an update over a long period of time.
Yeah.
I can't authenticate my game through DRM over a long period of time. It either pings or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, I'm fucked.
Well, I'm sure you can hit something that re-pings it. I mean, that's just...
No. That's the problem here.
But if
you don't have a strong enough connection, it won't let you do it.
Well,
it just won't.
Don't buy it unless you have a strong enough connection.
So you're saying I can't play games unless I live in an area where I have reliable internet.
That would be the problem with the internet companies.
But it doesn't matter because you're perpetuating that issue. You're saying you have to have this or it's not going to work.
That's fine. I mean, I don't go out and buy Call of Duty and then get upset that I can't play online because I have bad internet. You know, I need a certain amount of internet to play the game online.
But these aren't online games.
No, this is for protection because people...
Protection from what?
When people steal the game.
It doesn't matter. Everybody breaks this shit. Every single DRM that has ever existed in the history of the fucking internet gets broken. So all you're doing is you're annoying the shit out of people, and then inevitably, in a few months, it'll get broken. It's totally worthless.
I've never had any of these issues because I have good internet. And
so that's your privilege of living in an area where you have functional internet,
absolutely.
and you're not accepting the fact that people don't have that.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. Now, you have to understand, that's what the internet companies, like we were talking about before, I blame the internet companies. They need to fix that. It is inexcusable in 2016 not to have good internet in a lot of this country. However, when I'm talking about, let me put it this way. So we have a developer that has, their 50, 60, 70 gigabyte game, and they're going to add this DRM on there. If you're living in the middle of the country and you're going to steal that, Jesus, it's going to take you forever to download 80 gigabytes of data.
But you're not stealing it. A lot of times people buy these games legitimately, and then they just look for ways to bypass the DRM.
That's certainly a circumstance I have no issue with.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying like pirate this fucking game. I'm saying if you own a game and you paid for it and you can't play it because of this ridiculous DRM
If that's
requirement,
an issue, then certainly I understand that.
then they can fuck themselves.
Absolutely.
And I just in this age there is no excuse for this type of DRM because it doesn't work. It's insane.
Well, I mean, it was working. They just cracked it. I mean, and then they're going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just a constant back and forth, and whether it lasts a day or a month. There's no studies that show reliably that this type of stuff actually prevents piracy.
There's no reliable studies. I mean, at this point, we don't have enough of an investigation on this. There's no widespread, and we would need to look worldwide. Well, I mean, we could look at North America, and I guess we could look at the UK, but there's also other giant markets such as Russia, which have a reputation for pirating games, which was decreased when they introduced Steam, blah, 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 blah. But I've yet... Well, let's look at that real quick. Steam, that they require you to authenticate your library, right? That doesn't seem to be a huge issue for anybody.
It can be. That's why a lot of people buy games from Good Old Games, because there's a no DRM requirement.
I mean, the fact of the matter is DRM is here to stay, and they wouldn't be introducing new DRM if they didn't keep cracking it. That's the reason they keep introducing it, is because someone else breaks it.
But you're basically saying that because this thing is here, we have to perpetuate it, and I don't think that's fair.
No. It's because theft exists. That's the reason why. And PC games for many years were so pirated, and they only saw a decrease when they had the introduction of Steam and DRM. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
Steam's ease of access is what has decreased that, not the fact that they have built-in DRM.
But to the point that you need to authenticate your entire library. You'd be locked out of all your games. I mean, that's just like DRM right there.
But no, it's just no. Steam makes things easier. People pirate games because prior to Steam, there was no good way to consolidate everything that you have and find things reliably and cheaply. Steam just makes it easier. It's the same reason with Netflix. Like, people don't pirate movies as much just because streaming from Netflix and Hulu is so much easier. And that's the difference. It's just access is easier. So basically this online-only DRM shit, it doesn't help anybody. It just perpetuates a broken system without actually addressing any of the core issues.
Maybe. But I honestly believe there's no alternative. I don't know what the alternative is.
Good old games. It exists. The alternative is good old games. There's no DRM. Everyone does fine. Ask the developers of The Witcher if they're having problems selling their games.
Yeah, but that's basically almost a political game at this point. And I do mean that because they were so vocal. They were so out there about saying we're not having any DRM, and people are saying, well, I'm going to reward you. This will be the one game I buy.
You honestly think that is what driven their massive sales?
When you read some of the things that people say...
So, okay. So, stop. Either, one, you can be successful without DRM, or two, you're admitting that if you tout the fact that you don't have DRM, that can help you be successful.
It's a gimmick.
So why have fucking DRM?
It's a gimmick, though. You can't do that for every single game.
Why not? CD Projekt Red does it, and everybody who releases a game on Good Old Games does it.
What about Activision?
What about them?
Do they release games on Good Old Games?
I don't think so. They could.
Because I guarantee, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I guarantee you people would say, I don't like Activision. I'm not paying for their games. I'm just going to take them. People, I'm not pointing fingers here, but there are people that just say, I don't like this studio. I don't like Square Enix because they changed the way this character sounded.
So why not build up goodwill with your audience by releasing a game that's DRM free?
Because I would never encourage leaning into entitlements. Now, The Witcher...
How is it entitlement? It's not entitlement. It's making games available to everyone.
They're out in front saying, this is our expectation. If you're going to play our game, understand this. This is what you're purchasing. It will function if you do X, Y, or Z, and it won't if you do...
All right. Okay. So my line is DRM is shitty because it locks out people, and your line is cultural gatekeeping that perpetuates a broken system is fine.
No, because they need to make money. That's just it. They have to make money, and it's very important that the studios that spend years and years and years of their lives see a return on that investment.
CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, because they're the alternative. They're that one team that stepped out there and basically said we're not DRM, and they gained a reputation. But that's the fact of the matter. And the thing is, if I don't buy it for a second that if Activision said we're getting rid of DRM, I guarantee you that people would still pirate the hell out of their games.
Maybe they would.
And the thing is that, unfortunately, if you're going to be on PC, you have to watch out for that. And that's there's a reason you see so many developers wait on PC. And I know, look, I love my PC. I like playing games on PC. I really do. Do I spend a whole lot of time on PC? I can't, because I cover things on consoles. That's the way it is. But if I wasn't, I would be probably playing more things on PC. Like No Man's Sky, I probably would have waited for. Just being real here. But there is an issue where people feel that it is okay to steal games, and it is theft. These games are brand new. They're on the shelf. Now, if it's going to be like 3x3 eyes, take it. Who cares? Studio doesn't even exist anymore. The people that made the game will never see money if you buy it on, on some sort of gray market, because it's a 30-year-old game. But having a game before it comes out, right when it comes out, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years after it comes out, I mean, I'm going to steal the very first Hitman game. I could just buy that on Steam. Why wouldn't I just do that? But there will always be people that just go, nah, I don't want to spend the money, and just steal the game. And I feel that's so wrong. And that for some reason, people they don't want to stop that. I don't feel like there's been enough of an effort to discourage piracy within what I would call like a PC community, saying, no, theft is wrong. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. That's how we get rid of DRM. Stop stealing the games. Stop cracking the DRM. No, but seriously.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, it's like morally and ethically wrong,
But
I
just-
suppose. But like that's I think that's a smaller subsection of people. Like, it's just most people, I think, when they steal games, they steal it out of necessity. Like, I steal music all the time, but I steal shit that I can't get anywhere else.
I get that. But I mean, I always say that when someone says they take games, I say, come on, man. You know, I'm like that because I feel like they wouldn't need DRM if people weren't so fervent about stealing the damn games.
Well, it's funny, though,
And
because
you
you say they wouldn't need DRM, but most games are cracked within hours of their release.
I know, but
So it's like, apparently they don't need DRM anyways because it's useless. Like, this service that you're talking about, the fact that it's gone on for as long as it has, is like, it is the exception and not the rule. Most games are cracked upon release.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm very disappointed to see that there's not more of an embrace of just being like, hey, stop trying to steal games. Because that's just it. There is a non-moral, a large non-moral area where people are just taking games because they don't like it. Because they don't have demos on Steam. What? That doesn't mean you can steal something. You know, I don't know. Let's move on. This is kind of interesting. Pete Hines from Bethesda was talking about the next Elder Scrolls game. This isn't really a story. I just love this goddamn quote.
Yeah.
This studio is not a vending machine. They're not a two-button vending machine where first we press Elder Scrolls and then we press Fallout and then we press Elder Scrolls and then we press Fallout.
Oh, I thought that's what they were.
Me too. They're an incredibly talented studio of creative people. They've now made 4 games in a row, all of which named Game of the Year. And they have a right to decide what they're interested in working on next and which direction they want to go. I just like that he's biting back. Just kind of like, people like, but Fallout only came out 8 months ago. We want, you know, whatever it is right now. Actually, like 9 months ago. That's basically the whole quote. I just thought it was a funny story. He has so much resentment.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, yeah, no, we make the games. We'll take our time. Please take more time than you did with Fallout 4. Just saying there. Hey, Gran Turismo 6 had some sales numbers released. Yeah, out of nowhere.
When did that come out?
This week.
No, when did the game come out?
2013.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
It was revealed that Gran Turismo 6, altogether in its lifetime sales, has now sold 5.01 million units. All right, 5.01 million units. Of course, Gran Turismo 5 is the best-selling Gran Turismo game of all time. Best-selling game on the PlayStation 3 with 11.95 million units. So it's less than half of that. It's actually less than GT5 Prologue. It's less than half of Gran Turismo 4, less than half of Gran Turismo 3, almost less than half of Gran Turismo 2, and less than half of the original Gran Turismo.
Wow.
This was released at the peak of the PlayStation 3, 2013. We're here, man. How could they let this fall apart? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a racing game guy, so I can't really comment on it, but
They're really fun games.
yeah.
I don't know. I
think for a long time they were like the top dog. Like, you associated Gran Turismo with racing games, and now there's so many options that it's probably a more crowded field.
Poor them. It's a really crowded house. Don't dream. It's over. Let's move on to the last story before we get to the charts. Parappa the Rappa is getting a brand new anime series starting on August 18th.
Oh God.
Now, the last show was fucking awful. I mean, absolute dog shit. It literally was a baby show. I mean, babies would watch it in Japan because anyone above the age of 4 was like, this is too beneath me. But there's a chance that by just having this exist, maybe we'll see another Parappa the Rappa. So they're keeping the franchise alive. We always talk about those damn movie licensed things in the chart park. I just felt like we should talk about a TV licensed anime about one of the greatest characters of all time. Who believes? I gotta believe. Let's go to the cursed land of tea and crumpets known as the UK to find out what are the top 10 best-selling games of the week. Number 10 is Rocket League Collector's Edition. Number 9 is Ratchet & Clank. Number 8 is Rocket League Collector's Edition on the Xbox One. Number 7, before it was the PlayStation 4. Number 7 is Overwatch. Number 6 is Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens on the PlayStation 4. Number 5 is FIFA 16. Number 4 is Overwatch on Xbox One. Number 3 is Grand Theft Auto 5 on Xbox One. Number 2 is Grand Theft Auto 5 on PlayStation 4. And number 1, surprisingly, is Uncharted 4 Thief's End. But it's also important to note, Grand Theft Auto still doing gangbusters over there on both consoles.
Yeah.
I just thought it was rather impressive. Now let's go over to Japan to find out where the top 10 best-selling games over there. Number 10 is Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Number 9 is Toukiden 2 on the PlayStation 4. Number 8 is Kirby Planet Robo. Number 7 is Genkai Toki 7 Pirates. 7 of them. Number 5 is 12 Sai Kurusu Diary. Number 4 is Puzzle and Dragon X Kama no Show / Rio no Show. Number 3 is Yokai Watch 3 Sushi Tempura.
It's called Sushi Tempura?
Sushi / Tempura.
Oh.
Like there was a White Dog Squad and,
Red Cat?
Yeah. Number 2 is Dragon Ball Fusions. What an unfortunate name for a 3DS title. And number 1 is Etron Odyssey 5.
3DS?
Yes.
All right.
3DS is doing great over there.
Yeah.
In fact, let's talk about where the best-selling consoles there. New 3DS LL sold 24,123, while the PlayStation 4 in second place only sold 16,469. That's about an 7,500 increase. Vita in third place, 10,005. New 3DS, 6,403. Wii U with 4,435. PlayStation 3 with 1,120. 3DS with 804. 3DS LL with 219. And in last place, you already know it's the Xbox One with 45. Poor guys.
That's rough.
Talking about all this momentum, and then just Japan just won't pick up the volleyball.
Hey, they're better than PlayStation. You know, that'd be the PR spin right there. Yeah, Xbox One is doing great in Japan. We've outsold the PlayStation Vita TV for 3 straight months.
They should just have, we outsold the PlayStation, just a little star next to it. Vita with another star next to the star. TV.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be great. Okay. That's going to have to do it for the Chart Park. The land where money grows on trees. It's always so nice to be out here and argue about DRM. Anyway, we have to talk about the smaller stories of the week. That's right. It's time to get tiny. It's time for Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk. Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Spirit of Justice will be released officially on the 8th of September on this 3DS. You can pick it up for $30. By the by, for $30 right now, you can pick up the last game on the 3DS and the Ace Attorney trilogy on the 3DS for less than $30. They're on sale right now. I might do that. You would miss out on one title though, which is the Apollo Justice one that took place in between Dual Destinies and the trilogy. I want to bring this up one more time. Why don't handhelds get collections like trilogies and remasters of handheld games?
I don't know.
Wouldn't you want to play all the the Castlevania games that were on the DS that all used all the touchscreen gimmicks? Where else do you want to play that? You want to play it on the 3DS, right?
Yeah, I'd play that. I'd play a Castlevania collection. And there's a million of those games. God, you could do like 3 volumes.
Well, I mean, is there any particular handheld game you'd like to see re-released on the 3DS?
I don't know. I think, what was there was a Kirby game that I really liked on the DS, and I can't remember what it's called. The touch and roll. Yeah, I like touch and roll, and then there's another one where maybe this was 3DS. All the little mini Kirby's, and you had to keep track of all the Kirby's. Or that must have been regular DS.
That was on Game Boy Advance. I want to say
no, because it was touchscreen. But yeah, there's like 500 little mini Kirby's that you had to like. Move along.
Yeah.
What is that called? There's too many goddamn Kirby games.
Oh, and they're all on handhelds.
Yeah.
But I mean, how great would it be to have every single Kirby game that was ever on a handheld on the 3DS?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Especially Kirby 2. Kirby Dream Land 2. The best Kirby game. You fight the sun, you fight the moon. Incredible. Let's move on. Nintendo has announced a $150 3DS known as the Super Mario 3D Land New 3DS Edition. But it's not a new edition of the game. It's just a brand new 3DS with Super Mario 3D Land. And they also announced that the 3DS will now have brand new select games for only $20. You can pick up Animal Crossing New Leaf, Tomodachi Life, Nintendogs Plus, Cats, Golden Retriever, and New Friends, and Lego City Undercover. The chase begins.
Hey, there we go.
Where did that chase go anyway? I see it began.
I don't know. It was a fun game. This is kind of weird, though, because like my 3DS came with a download code for Super Mario 3D Land. Like,
did your new 3DS come with it?
No, I guess not. There you go. They're roping people in the way I got roped in.
I think these are great titles for the select. So you got Animal Crossing, which means you have to wait for a few hours. You got Tomodachi Life, which means you have to wait for a few hours. You got Nintendogs, which means you have to wait for a few hours. And then you have Lego City Undercover. What the hell is this list? These are not. Don't you want to have like more variety? Like, what's the difference between Tomodachi Life and Animal Crossing? Animals, you know. And I mean, it's a little bit wackier, of course, but these are, you know, 5 minutes and then wait kind of games. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess if you rotate between those three, then you get a perfect loop going on.
You know what? Point taken. That'll be available on August 26th. Let's move on. Pokemon Go has officially earned over $200 million within its first month, smashing, destroying the record of Clash Royale, which made $120 million in its first month. Just holy shit. $200 million. You still playing?
No.
Me either. I'm over it.
Yeah. I mean, I played in Indianapolis a little bit just because there was new stuff to find, but I'll play every once in a while, but not that often.
Cool. And that's have to do it for Pocket Talk. Pocket Talk, Pocket Talk. Let's take the mushroom.
Yeah, that was a good mushroom noise.
That was.
That's how you've been practicing.
Mm-hmm. Now it is time to take a look at the dummies, the dum-dums, the stupid people that we have to deal with.
Are we going to get to this fart thing that I was teased in the beginning of the show?
It's time for the idiot of the week. Ubisoft is publishing South Park: The Fractured Butthole. It is the sequel to the other South Park game, Stick of Truth.
It's the sequel to the other South Park game. Chef's Love Shack?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I like that one. But
South Park Racing?
Yeah, that was a terrible one. Here's the thing. They decided to have a promotional item called the Noseless Rift. You know, like a nose.
Yeah.
Goes over your nose, and at Gamescom and PAX West, people will be able to try it out because there's a lot of farting in the game, and it's going to send farts directly into your nose.
Smell-o-vision.
While you're playing. No. Doesn't. Nope, just the farts. No other smells, just farts. When someone farts, you will smell it at Gamescom and PAX West.
Can't wait.
This is the stupidest fucking promotional item you could ever do. When I was a young boy, I was reading EGM. And I spotted an ad for Scratch and Sniffs. Oh boy, I was delighted. I scratched, I sniffed, and that pungent odor insulted me so much, I looked at the game title and said, I'm never playing that game. That game was called Earthbound. And I'm dead serious. I was one of those people. I hated that smell so much, I never wanted to play that game. What a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would you do this?
I still have my Earthbound Scratch and Sniff cards from Nintendo Power somewhere.
I have the print ad. I don't have the cards, but I still got that. Why would you do this?
I don't know.
Do you understand? Like, smell actually really affects people mentally. Like, they will be like, that smells delicious. I'm coming to this restaurant every week. Yeah. Or that smells really gross. I'm never using this tanning bed again.
Well, who wouldn't want to buy a game featuring, you know, print ads that make your entire magazine smell like cayenne pepper? Like, that's great.
I'm just saying, also, on a side note here, the Oculus Rift. Remember when all those people got pink eye?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell do you think's going to happen when you're literally sticking it into an orifice? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Well, it's probably just going to be like a Bane mask or something, probably.
You got to breathe on into it. You can't just inhale the whole time. Stupid.
It's going to be gross.
Ubisoft, dumb. You are dumb. And dummies, you are dumb. Why are you doing this? The idiot, stupid, dumb of the week, idiots.
I want to suck those farts.
Fuck. When I read that, I honestly couldn't think about that, you know.
God.
Anyway, let's listen back to the listeners. We have one voicemail this week that we have to get to.
Is it from my dad?
Jesus. No, it is from someone else. And a little thing we like to call... Thank you for the email. This email is a voicemail, and it comes from Aaron. He's called before, and he's got a little bit of a loosey-goosey question this week. Take it away, Aaron.
Hey, this is Aaron, or Aaron, I guess. I'm kind of using you guys as my one and only source of game reviews, so you kind of make or break whether or not I decide to spend my money on something. So I was wondering if Colin, Steve, have you guys played Absu, the underwater exploration game that's just hit the beginning of August? Hopefully you guys have, and have a good word to say. Let me know. Aaron,
thank you for the voicemail. Absu, is it good? Well, either way, we are his #1 source on whether or not you should pick up a game. Wise choice, Aaron. And I hope the other listeners take note because I don't know about you, but we are batting a 1,000 here.
Yeah, we're super smart dudes.
So, what did you think of Abzu?
I didn't play it.
Well, we're off to a bad start. However, I did play Abzu, and I can tell you, should you play it?
Is it about muscular animals?
It is basically okay, I've stated many times, I don't like to compare games. I didn't even review this game because I didn't want to compare it. I found it unavoidable to compare it. If you like Journey, it really is Underwater Journey. There are, I would say, it's basically a Quentin Tarantino production where it's like, those are the same camera angles and shots from Journey. Like, holy crap. And one of the people that worked on Journey, he's working on this game. So fair enough. If you want to spend 2 hours seeing some very good graphics underwater, and I mean very good, and you're willing to overlook the fact that this is Journey, like, oh, I reached the end of this thing, let me touch this thing and it's going to glow, and oh, the mysteries of the universe, oh, what does that mean, and then I'm back into the next stage. I mean, it's really Journey, like almost to a detriment, because while there are many other things out there like, oh, there's Call of Duty and there's this other shooter, there's really only one Journey, and when you're taking a lot of influence from one game, it's noticeable, you know what I'm saying here, Doug? Like, if you release a game that has a zombies mode, a multiplayer mode, and just like, rah, rah, go America storyline, you'd be like, that's a lot like Call of Duty there.
PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Exclusive?
Yeah.
Ooh,
it's also on PC, I believe. It's
all right.
Very pretty, so if you just want to see some good graphics and have a little bit of fun, you know, good music too, very good music. It's just, but if you play Journey, I don't know if I could recommend. It really, it leans so heavy into that it's. I've never had that happen where this is really problematic. Like, not since the days of, and I feel like I'm undermining the game so much because of how pretty and how much work went into it, but it's like, this reminds me of like a Pac-Man clone in a way. Like, oh, this is a better version of Pac-Man, but there's still Pac-Man. But look, that game's $20. Maybe he wants to play something that is just around that price range, and we are his go-to source.
Yeah.
I've taken some notes on some games. I think it's worth noting that Inside is coming to the PlayStation 4 at the end of the month. That is going to be $20. That is also a 2-hour experience. I think I speak for Steve when I say don't play Inside unless you own an Xbox One, because that's the way to play it. I'm kidding. If you want to PlayStation, please play Inside on the PlayStation 4 when it comes out later this month. Resident Evil 4 is coming out on the 30th. That's a re-release. It's $20. Resident Evil 4, if you never played that game, it's a masterpiece, man. I'm sure you could share your experiences with Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, play it on the Wii. That's the best version.
Did you? What the? All right. Okay. What about Until Dawn? That's under $20 right now. Really cool game. Did you sit down and start playing that yet?
I haven't gotten around to it.
Oh, heartbreaking.
I know. I was I was playing through Doom again, and then No Man's Sky came out, and my life is over now.
Obviously, if you got the scratch, Doom and No Man's Sky, two very different games, both highly recommended. And I'm just basing this around a price point, though. Bloodborne is $20 right now. You've certainly spent some time in that game.
Yeah. Bloodborne's great. I'm gonna throw some suggestions out here too. You should play Enter the Gungeon if you haven't played Enter the Gungeon
That's
yet.
$20 or less.
Yeah, I think that's like 15. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Definitely one of the best games of the year.
Hyper Light Drifter.
Hyper Light Drifter,
yeah.
super cool. If you could play on PC, Quadrilateral Cowboy is really cool.
I haven't played it yet. I'm waiting on that. Infamous Second Son, if you're looking for more AAA experience, I really enjoy that open world game. Last of Us Remastered, you have no excuse not to play that. It's under $20 right now. Shadow Complex is now available on PlayStation 4. Really fun game, which has a storyline from an insane man. The Mega Man Collection.
Ooh.
I mean, really, you know, it's one of those things where, yeah, the games are really hard if you've never played a Mega Man game before, but you will feel it. You will feel it when you beat those games. You will feel it right in your gut, like, yeah, I did it. I am the Mega Man. You'll go into work tomorrow and say, shut up, I am the Mega Man. And when they fire you, you say, you can't fire the Mega Man. Also, Shiftlings, really fun 2D puzzle game where you exchange farts.
I thought you didn't like farts.
Dude, I don't have to smell the fucking game. I'm just saying, man. And also, if you're looking for something really experimental, if you want to play a 6 out of 10, you know, sometimes the 6 out of 10
What kind of bizarre precursor to a recommendation is that?
Sometimes you want to play 6 out of 10. You know, sometimes you just do. Murdered Soul Suspect is this weird third-person adventure game where you play as a ghost and you're trying to find out who murdered you. It's a very strange game. Very strange game. It's only $20 right now. Any others you got? Rocket League, I think, for my money, is the best thing you could spend that money on if you have an internet connection. Holy shit. Rocket League. It is the best chaser to any game experience. I was playing Overwatch, so I played Rocket League. I was playing No Man's Sky, so I played Rocket League. Whatever I play, when I need just a cleanser for the end of the night, Rocket League's my go-to. Every single time. So good. Soccer game with cars. Any others?
No, I think that covers it.
All right, Aaron, so stop asking us about Abzu and go get yourself Hyper Light Drifter. And before you do any of that, we just want to say thank you for the voicemail. Remember, pressurecast@gmail.com, at pressurecastpod on Twitter, and 954-947-7377. Keep those questions coming. Keep those questions coming.
Yeah, baby.
But we need to get going.
Shit.
And the best way to do that, I think, is to take a look back at the week that was 10 years ago and beyond. So during this week, keep in mind your living history. And a little thing we like to call Strong History. 10 years ago, on the Xbox 360, 99 Nights was released on the Xbox 360.
That's a video game.
It is. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that was weird, huh? Also, 10 years ago, on the PlayStation 2, Dirge of Cerberus, the Final Fantasy VII side quest where you played as Vincent.
Ugh.
I bought a copy of that Midwest Gaming Classic.
What?
Because it's
Did
like,
you really?
Yeah.
How much did you pay for that?
Like $10.
Okay, that's okay.
Sometimes you just want to play a 6 out of 10. Just saying. Speaking of 6 out of 10s, 11 years ago, Dark Watch was released on PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
It's not like the cowboy first-person shooter game?
Okay.
With like magical powers?
Okay, do not disrespect Dark Watch. You are a vampire cowboy in the West. Shooting guns. It was released by Capcom, one of their only first-person shooters. That was a weird time where you started to feel like Namco being like, all right, we'll make a first-person shooter, whatever. Like, what? Okay.
Eh?
Also, speaking of random first-person shooters that are 6 out of 10s, Geist was released on the GameCube, where you play as a ghost and you take over a Coke machine, and it would take...
Spooky!
You would scare mercenaries away from their post because the vending machine would shake.
I thought you were going to say Black came out or something.
Oh, wow, yeah. No. Not this week.
That's the video game Mendoza line. Black. It's fine.
14 years ago this week on the PlayStation 2 and the PC, The Thing, based off of John Carpenter's The Thing, was released. Did you ever...
Yeah, fuck that game.
What?
A lot of people are like, oh, it's underrated and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, him. It's just like, it's just a bunch of fucking Switch puzzles. It's a long series of Switch puzzles. It's like, replace the fuse, pull the switch, replace the fuse.
Yes.
Fuse and the switch and the fuse.
Absolutely 100% true. But there is something else to this game where the people that join you along the game, you know, like how Mass Effect are like, oh, any one of your teammates can die or whatever. This game lived up to that. You have no idea if one of your partners is the Thing. They're a secret alien, so you have to test their blood. And sometimes you're like, hey, let's do a blood test. They're like, why the fuck do you want to do a blood test? Why don't you trust me? And then shit goes down. And they'll even abandon you or fight you. I thought it was cool. But
that stuff's cool, but I could do without the fuses.
Point taken. There were some bullshit elements to that game. Also, 14 years ago, Medieval Total War was released.
Oh.
Hard to believe 14 years ago, eh?
Yeah, wow.
Which, of course, that wasn't the very first one. I think Shogun was the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a Sega property. Do you play Total War at all?
I played Shogun when it first came out with my friend, and we had a blast with that. And then I bought Rome Total War when it came out.
Did you like that one?
Yeah, I liked it fine. But I don't play, like, I never played the campaigns on those games. I just would, I bought, on a Steam sale, I bought some Total War collection or something.
You always see that collection.
Yeah, and it was cheap, and I've had fun with it. But I just set up, like, ridiculous scenarios, and then I see how well I can do.
I just like to set up some ridiculous fishing. 16 years ago on the PlayStation, Chrono Cross was released, receiving a perfect 10 out of 10 from GameSpot.
Video games!
It kind of lives in infamy, because a lot of people were disappointed it wasn't anything like Chrono Trigger. People often forget there's a game in between Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger that takes place about crossing a bridge. I forget what system that's on. I think that might be one of those satellite games. I don't remember. 17 years ago on the PlayStation, Jammerlami was released in the United States.
You just basking in this pot rappa shit this week.
I can't help it. I'm just having fun. And let me tell you something. What the funk? Where is my Unjamalami sequel or Parappa the Rappa 3? I actually own the Nana Ansha, they had another game that they released on the Wii that's a marching band game that got abysmal reviews, but I own a copy of it just in case ever want to play that. Also, 17 years ago, NFL Blitz 2000 was released on the 64. One of the last times football was actually fun on consoles.
Mm-hmm. I got to play the new Mutant League game, Mutant League Football.
Dear God.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out?
I was at Gen Con. It played like, do you remember when they had like NFL Blitz, like arcade cabinets? It's basically that.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it just, I mean, for better or worse, it looks and feels like a Midway arcade game from 2003.
I want that very much. I want to play a 7 out of 10. Also, 17 years ago, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver was released on the PlayStation. Some idiot named Amy Hedig worked on that, and we never heard of her again. You want to write a story for a game? Good luck. 21 years ago, this is bustling. 21 years ago, shit was going down. Let me tell you, son. Nintendo's Real Monsters was released on the SNES and Genesis.
Nintendo published Real Monsters?
It was on the Nickelodeon. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Which I'm not a huge fan of, but kids out there.
It's Lost Vikings, but with Real Monsters instead of Vikings.
That was one of those games I tested emulators for, because it was at the very top. It would be like 3 ninjas in that.
Mm-hmm.
Killing Time was released on the 3DO.
Ooh, that's a game.
Have you ever wanted to chop off an arm in a fighting game and then continue the fight? Now you can.
Yeah.
Also, 21 years ago, Echo Jr. on the Genesis. Dollar bills, y'all. That game is worth it. Not worth it as in it'll be fun to play, but Echo Jr., which just a weird random, like one of the last Genesis games in 1995. Just not very good, but not to be confused with Echo the Dolphin 2, Defender of Time or whatever.
Yeah, that never came out, right?
No, it did. It did.
What's the one that never came out that they just leaked like a few months ago?
I think you're thinking of Toe Jam and Earl.
No, it was an Echo game. It was like a dumped ROM of an Echo game, and you could swim around, but there wasn't a lot there.
I think it was just a Dreamcast version of the game that came out eventually.
Okay.
Because there was a few of those. Echo that. 21 years ago, Telro Boxer, Red Alarm, Mario Tennis, and Galactic Pinball.
Fucking Virtual Boy.
Were released in the United States. We talked about Japan before, but in the United States, because yes, it is the 21st. It is the 20th anniversary of the Virtual Boy, because 21 years ago it came out, so it's the 20th anniversary of the Virtual Boy. Holy shit. I cannot see. You see this all the time online. 25 years ago has happened. Happy 25th anniversary. When is your first anniversary? It's not the day you get married.
No.
Virtual Boy. Underrated?
No. It's painful to play.
You defend Nintendo more than me, and I'm being like, hey, I think this is a pretty cool console.
No, it hurts. Like, it physically hurts to play. A couple of the games were fine. That boxing game is...
Turbo Boxer's great!
I wouldn't call it great. It's a not shitty, but not wonderful version of Punch-Out. Buster Brothers is okay. Or not Buster Brothers. What's it called? Fuck.
Oh, the top-down...
Yeah, it's got like Persona characters in it or something.
We use the music of that a lot on the show.
Yeah, someone's going to yell at us and tell me what it's called. But that game's okay. But
Jack Brothers.
Jack Brothers. And you're not going to find a copy because it's super rare. Mario Clash is... Mario Tennis is okay. That Wario game's fine. But it hurts. Like, I can't play it for more than 10 minutes. It fucking hurts to play.
For some reason, whenever I think of Jack Brothers, I still think of the Kirby enemies that bounce back and forth and throw bombs. I don't know why. I just associate with that.
Yeah, I know you're a big Waterworld fan. I know that was a major game.
That was supposed to have multiplayer, but they never released the attachment for the Virtual Boy. The Wario game is great on this system.
It's good. I just wish it was on a system where I wouldn't die playing it.
Well, because they never re-released it in emulation,
Mm-hmm.
So 21 years ago, which would be the 21st anniversary, on the Genesis, SNK's World Heroes, not a good fighting game. Try and play it today, it's garbage. But when I was a kid... that game was a lot of fun. You got a guy with big hands. It's a fun game. I actually believe it resulted in a lawsuit from Capcom, too. 23 years ago, Tiny Toon Adventures Busters Bust Loose on the SNES. I heard a lot of good things about that game. I've never really played it.
It's okay.
No.
A lot of people do really like it, though. It's got like a really fervent fan base.
I hate when people just like games that are obviously bad, but they just like it for nostalgia. Stupid. Also, 23 years ago, one of the best games of all time, Eternal Champions, was released on the Genesis.
That's a bold claim.
Obviously,
one of the clunkiest fighting games of all time.
I feel like I'm having echolalia here. I think we've had this conversation, but I would submit to you that Eternal Champions is just as good as many other fighting games of its day. First entry fighting games. You look at where Street Fighter went to Street Fighter 2. You look at where Mortal Kombat went to Mortal Kombat 2. Lightspeed, I'm telling you. If they got an Eternal Champions 2, I'm optimistic that it would have been a better game. I really am.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you on that, but it's still garbage.
25 years ago, Valis was released on the Genesis.
Cool.
Valis 2, of course, is the music for the Chart Park, in case you were wondered.
That's a hard game to find, by the way.
Yeah. Electric Boogaloo. We have some really important news about what happens next, but instead we're going to skip ahead to 29 years ago in Japan. One of my favorite games of all time, Air Fortress, was released in Japan. You ever play Air Fortress?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you start off and you're the ship, and it's got a little bubble thing on top of it. You're like, what's that bubble thing? But then the ship lands once you get past the shoot 'em up stage, and it's actually a dude who's got a jetpack. Oh my god. That's No Man's Sky. Air Fortress is No Man's Sky before No Man's Sky. You cannot dispute this.
There's another game too. Shit. Why is the name eluding me?
Well, like Hero on Atari 2600?
It's not Legendary Wings. It's... Fuck. What is it called? It's this game where it's almost like it's Blaster Master-esque, but it's the same thing where you fly around in space and then you land on planets and then you walk around and shoot shit. What the fuck is it called?
No.
I can't remember. It's going to bother me.
The one thing that makes me sad is that Air Fortress's music, I'll never be able to use it for the show because it's just too... It doesn't work. But that music is wonderful. Yeah, we'll close out the show with it. Fuck it. I'm closing out the show with the Air Fortress music. But either way, and people are going to be mad because I'm not celebrating the music of this next bit. 27 years ago, one of the greatest games of all time, Altered Beast was released.
I don't like Altered Beast.
No, I like it, but it's not really one of the best games of all time. But those sprites are huge.
I like when the guy says, "Welcome to your doom."
Yeah, that really is from Altered Beast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even do it.
Welcome to your doom.
Also, 27 years ago, Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle was released. That's a great game. I had a lot of fun with that one. Why are these games out? Because 27 years ago, August 14th, 1989, Genesis did when Nintendo didn't. The Mega Drive was born over here in the United States, and it kicked off, I would say, the most aggressive console war we have ever seen. Even when Crash Bandicoot rolled up in that van yelling at Mario, it was nowhere near as mean as Sega going after that. The Sega Genesis, 27 years ago, this week in history. I mean, Genesis, one of the greatest consoles of all time, a system that is as good, or you could even argue better than the SNES. Now,
it's got that blast processing.
I just want to bring it up. Most game journalists, most people that write about games and follow games, they are not the Genesis kids. Genesis kids back in the day, they bought it for the sports titles, and then video games were just a thing they did. They didn't stick with them. Super Nintendo kids stuck with it because it had, you know, wizards and bullshit. And
wizards and bullshit.
Well, anyone that likes that kind of stupid crap, obviously they're never going to leave video games because they have no chance of ever learning how to, you know, kick a football. But the thing is that if you are a person like me who grew up with that damn Genesis and you gotten older, you almost would buy into the idea that Super Nintendo was obviously the better system. But that is bullshit when I'm talking about that General Chaos. You know what I'm saying here?
General Chaos is good.
I'm just saying about that General Chaos. When I'm talking about that Streets of Rage.
Herzog's Y.
When I'm talking about that Herzog's Y. When I'm talking about that Comic Zone. When I'm talking about that Fantasy Star 4 Sun. When I'm talking about that Shining Forces 2 Sun. You know deep down the Genesis was just as good as the Super Nintendo. And just because plenty of people grew up only playing the arcade hits on the system, not the longer foreign games. And by the way, you want to play Sunset Riders? You're going to play on the Super Nintendo? Stupid. Don't be a dumbo. Had a lot better third-party versions of games. Why? Because the CPU was slightly faster.
You did have that shitty version of the Turtles fighting game.
Oh, you shut up!
Or not the fighting game, the arcade game. What is it? It's called like Hyperstone Heist instead
I
of Turtles
love
in Time.
Hyperstone Heist.
It's a bad version of
No.
Turtles in Time. That's
No,
pretty
that's
much across the board general consensus. I don't think anyone would agree with you on this
I
point.
understand that sometimes the consensus is wrong. People say that the Earth is heating up. They don't know what they're talking about. But Hyperstone Heist is one of the best games. We're getting colder, Steve. Hyperstone Heist is one of the best games of all time.
Oh my god.
Not really. I'm kidding. Okay. What's your favorite Genesis game? Boom.
Gunstar Heroes.
Good man.
That's probably like gun to my head. If I had to pick favorite game of all time, that'd be at least top 3.
Dude, I had no idea you felt that way.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
love
even
Gunstar
kidding.
Heroes.
I feel the exact same way. If you've never played Gunstar Heroes, like don't even just throw away whatever you own. Not even just video games, just whatever, because nothing's gonna help you in life. Gunstar Heroes, arguably the greatest game of all time, and I mean arguably the greatest game of all time. Amazing. The Genesis, 27 years ago. Goddamn, the only successful Sega console. How fucked is that?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Well, actually, it's not weird when you look at just how they've treated
Yeah,
their entire company.
No, you say it out loud. You know?
Yeah, it's like now that I think about it, it's just like, man, Sega's dumb now, but boy, they've always been kind of stupid.
Yeah, Sega's dumb, what Genesis don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's what I always say.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's gonna have to do it for Strong History. I've had some fun here, but I really just want to listen to some Air Fortress music. So can we please just close out the show, Steven? Yes. You forgot to let me do that thing in the intro of the show. I'm supposed to say Optimism Vaccine Steve Cuff.
Yeah, you also just called me Steven because apparently you're my mother.
Well, listen, Steven. Why don't you tell the audience where they can hear you and read you and watch you?
Well, first things first, follow me on twitter.com @SteveCuff. That's @SteveCuff. That's @Steve
See you friendly face. Continuity.
Yeah, you can also go to optimismvaccine.com. You can head over to iTunes, and you can become a avid listener of the OpVacCast. Shout out to all the people who have been adding me on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff.
It's weird.
Yeah, he's not getting that shit. You guys just like me more. But no, seriously, like check us out on iTunes. Please rate us, write a review. It would help us immensely if you could do that for us. OpVacCast is like a crazy pop culture, weird podcast, cover movies, TV, some video game stuff, all kinds of shit. It's entertaining. You'll like it. Yeah, optimismvaccine.com, all kinds of amazing articles. We're doing Superhero Month this month, so you're going to have a bunch of articles on Suicide Squad and Marvel and DC. We're doing a couple of podcasts on it. It's going to be a whole thing. You'll love it. Check it out.
Look, maybe you're not going to give a shit about some of the other stuff these guys cover. But I guarantee, I'm just being real here. I guarantee you give a fuck about superheroes. This is a great gateway to getting into the show. And as soon as you're done listening to the superhero stuff, I promise you, you're going to want to listen to the rest of everything else. When you're like, I've never even heard of this thing. This is a great way to step in because it's something you're familiar with, but you're going to want to listen to the rest of the show. WrestlePania is another great thing that you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
And Shotgun Wedding. Lots of great stuff. You want to check out OptimismVaccine.com. Not as much as you want to check out YouTube.com/videogamesardone, where you can check out my episode of Worth It on No Man's Sky. Probably not going to be doing any episodes of Worth It this week. I'll be doing 2 first hours, but we're going to be doing an alternative way. I'm going to actually play the game for a good deal of time and then go back and play it so I can guide you guys through what the game is all about, as opposed to just kind of like, oh, geez, what do I do? Oh, what's that object mean? Because that's bullshit. I hate the first hour, but I keep making them because they get me views.
I don't know. I liked your first hour for No Man's Sky. I thought you did a good job of like explaining how the world worked.
But thank you. That's so nice. That's so kind of you. That's wonderful. Obviously, though, first hours end, lives end, the world ends, but the Pressure Cast does not. Because the Pressure Cast is forever. Pew, pew. See you guys. PRESSURECAST, weekly video game news podcast, is solely owned and operated by Colin Tanner. Guests of the PRESSURECAST are not employees or freelancers of Colin Tanner, the PRESSURECAST, or VideoGamesAreDumb.com, and are not paid. Music featured on the PRESSURECAST is property of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended. For more information, email pressurecast@gmail.com.